His blind date never showed up, but two bleeding twin girls did, screaming his name. "They beat our mom! She's dying!" What should have been a quiet Friday night became a desperate race through dark streets to save a stranger's life. Ethan Cole had no idea that missing connection would lead him to the family he never knew he needed. Stay until the end to see how this story unfolds, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. The restaurant hummed with Friday night energy, clinking glasses, bursts of laughter, the aromatic swirl of garlic and wine. Ethan Cole sat at table 17, a corner booth with a flickering candle that cast dancing shadows across the white tablecloth. He checked his phone for the 14th time in 20 minutes. Still nothing. 7:45. She was 45 minutes late. He'd tried calling twice. Both attempts went straight to voicemail. His text messages sat there with single check marks, delivered but unread. Ethan set the phone face down on the table and took a long breath, feeling the familiar weight of disappointment settle over his shoulders like a heavy coat. "Can I get you anything else while you wait, sir?" The waitress approached with a practiced smile that didn't quite hide her pity. She'd refilled his water glass 3 times already. "No, thank you. I think—" Ethan paused, his throat tight. "I think I'm done waiting." She nodded sympathetically. "I'm sorry. It happens more than you'd think." "Does it?" Ethan wondered. Did other people get stood up this spectacularly? His sister Rachel had set this up, swearing this woman was perfect for him. Claire something. He couldn't even remember her last name now. All he had was a blurry profile picture Rachel had texted him and a promise that she was kind, smart, and ready to meet someone genuine. Apparently not ready enough to actually show up. Ethan pulled out his wallet, left cash on the table for the water and breadsticks he'd nervously consumed, and stood. His son, Marcus, was spending the night at Rachel's house, his first sleepover in months since the divorce became final. Ethan had the whole evening free, which now stretched before him like an empty highway. The November air bit at his face as he stepped outside. Fall had given way to something harsher in the past week. The street was alive with people, couples holding hands, groups of friends laughing their way toward bars, everyone seeming to have somewhere to be, someone to be with. Ethan shoved his hands deep into his jacket pockets and started walking. His car was parked 3 blocks away, and he wasn't in any hurry to reach the empty apartment waiting for him. Maybe he'd grab takeout, watch whatever game was on, pretend this night hadn't been a complete waste. He'd made it exactly 1.5 blocks when he heard the screaming. "Help! Somebody help!" The voices were young, terrified, close. Ethan's head snapped up just as 2 small figures burst from the darkness of an alley 20 feet ahead. They were running full speed, stumbling over their own feet, and in the amber glow of the streetlight, Ethan saw them clearly. Twin girls, identical, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Their clothes were torn and muddy. Blood streaked down one girl's face from a cut above her eye. The other had a ripped sleeve hanging from her shoulder, and they were running straight toward him. "Please!" the girl with the bleeding face screamed. "Please help us!" Ethan's body moved before his mind caught up. He was already running toward them, already dropping to one knee as they reached him, both girls slamming into him with the force of pure panic. "Whoa, whoa, I've got you. You're okay. What happened?" His hands found their shoulders, steadying them, his heart hammering against his ribs. Both girls were sobbing, gasping for air, their words tumbling over each other in a frantic jumble. They hurt her. So much blood. Couldn't wake her up. Hey, slow down." Ethan kept his voice calm even as alarm shot through every nerve in his body. "One at a time. Who hurt who? Where are your parents?" The girl with the torn sleeve grabbed his jacket with both fists, her knuckles white, her eyes wild with terror. "They beat our mom. She's dying. You have to help her. Please. You have to come now." The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. "What? Where is she?" "Our house." The other twin was pulling at his arm now, trying to drag him. "It's not far. Please, mister. She's bleeding so much. She won't wake up. We tried and tried, but—" "Did you call 911? Ethan was already pulling out his phone. "We don't have a phone. They broke it. They broke everything." The first girl's voice cracked into a raw wail. "They said they'd kill us if we told. But we ran. We ran so fast." "Who did this?" Ethan demanded, But the girls were already pulling him, both of them now, dragging him toward the alley they'd emerged from. "There's no time! She's dying, please!" Every instinct in Ethan's body screamed at him to stop, to call the police first, to not run blindly into a situation he knew nothing about. But when he looked at these two terrified children, covered in blood and mud, sobbing and begging, he ran. The girls led him through the alley, their small hands gripping his jacket, pulling him forward through the darkness. Broken glass crunched under his feet. The narrow passage stank of rotting garbage, and something else, something metallic and wrong. They burst out onto a residential street Ethan didn't recognize. "How far?" he gasped. "2 more blocks." The twin with the bleeding face was slightly ahead now, looking back to make sure he was still following. "The blue house! Hurry! Hurry!" Ethan's lungs burned. He wasn't young anymore. 37 years old, a desk job, hadn't gone for a serious run in months. But adrenaline pushed him forward, past the pain, past the rational voice in his head asking what the hell he was doing. They rounded a corner onto a street lined with small, dated houses. Porch lights glowed warm in the gathering darkness. Someone had left Halloween decorations up. A plastic skeleton dangled from a tree. Everything looked so normal, so quiet, so safe. Until they reached the blue house. The front door hung open, listing on one hinge. Through the doorway, Ethan could see chaos. Overturned furniture, shattered picture frames, the white glow of a lamp lying on its side, casting harsh shadows across the walls. "In here, in the kitchen." The twins were already inside, and Ethan followed, his phone out now, 911 already being dialed with shaking fingers. The living room was destroyed. The couch had been slashed, stuffing spilling out like guts. Family photos lay shattered on the floor. Ethan caught a glimpse of the twins smiling in matching dresses. A woman's face, flowers. A bookshelf had been tipped over, paperbacks scattered everywhere. The TV screen was cracked in a spiderweb pattern. "Mom, we brought help! Mom, please wake up!" The kitchen. Ethan stepped through the doorway and his breath caught in his throat. The woman lay crumpled against the base of the cabinets, her body twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood pooled beneath her head, thick and dark, and far too much of it. Her face was already swelling, one eye purple and swollen shut. Her lip was split. Her blonde hair, matted with blood, spread across the tile floor like spilled paint. She wasn't moving. 911, what's your emergency?" The operator's voice cut through the ringing in Ethan's ears. "I need an ambulance right now." Ethan's voice came out steady, controlled, even as his hands shook. "A woman has been severely beaten. She's unconscious, heavy bleeding from the head. I don't know if she's breathing." "What's your location, sir?" Ethan looked around frantically for an address, found mail scattered near the door. 624 Maple Street, the Blue House. Front door is open. Please hurry. An ambulance is on the way. Sir, are you in a safe location? Is the attacker still present? I don't... Girls, are they still here? Whoever did this? Both twins shook their heads violently, still crying. They left. They left in their truck. They're gone, Ethan told the operator. I need to help her. Tell me what to do. Sir, is the victim breathing? Ethan was already moving, dropping to his knees beside the woman, beside Claire, he realized suddenly, recognizing her face despite the swelling and blood. This was his blind date. This was the woman who never showed up because she was here, being beaten to death in her own kitchen. He pressed shaking fingers to her neck, searching for a pulse. For a terrible, endless moment, he felt nothing. Then, there, faint and rapid, fluttering like a trapped bird. She has a pulse, weak, but it's there. Is she breathing? Ethan lowered his face close to hers, watching for the rise and fall of her chest, feeling for breath against his cheek. Yes, shallow, but breathing. Good. Sir, I need you to not move her. There may be spinal injuries, but I need you to check for any major bleeding that can be controlled. The ambulance is 4 minutes away. 4 minutes? An eternity. Ethan scanned her body, careful not to move her. The head wound was the worst, a gash above her temple where something had struck her, hard. Blood still seeped from it, but not the arterial spray that would mean she was seconds from death. Her arms showed defensive wounds, deep bruises already forming. Her shirt was torn, revealing more bruises across her ribs. Mostly head trauma, Ethan reported. Bleeding from a scalp wound, but not spraying. Extensive bruising. She's completely unresponsive. Sir, stay on the line with me. Keep monitoring her breathing. If she stops breathing, I'll walk you through CPR. The twins had collapsed beside their mother, both of them clutching her hands, sobbing her name. Mommy, please wake up. Mommy, we got help. You're going to be okay. Please, please, please. Ethan's heart broke watching them. He reached out, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. Hey, look at me. Both of you, look at me. Two identical faces, tear-streaked and terrified, turned toward him. What are your names? Lily, said the one with the bleeding face. Sophie, whispered the other. Lily, Sophie, I'm Ethan. Listen to me very carefully. Your mom is strong. She's still breathing. She's still fighting. The ambulance is almost here and they're going to take care of her. But I need you both to be strong too, okay? Can you do that? They nodded, but they were still shaking, still crying. Who did this? Ethan asked gently. Who hurt your mom? Our dad, Sophie said, the words barely audible. He's not supposed to be here. Mom said he's not allowed. But he came anyway. He was so angry. He had his friends with him, Lily added, her voice breaking. 3 men. They said Mom owed money. They broke everything. They wouldn't stop hitting her. Rage, white-hot and sudden, flooded through Ethan's chest. What kind of monster beat a woman in front of her children? What kind of men held a single mother down while... Sir? Sir, are you still there? The operator's voice pulled him back. I'm here. The children say it was their father and 3 other men. Police are being dispatched with the ambulance. Do not approach them if they return. Do you have somewhere secure you can take the children? We're staying with our mom, Lily said fiercely before Ethan could answer. We're not leaving her. I won't leave them, Ethan told the operator. We'll stay here until help arrives. Sirens. Faint at first, then growing louder. The most beautiful sound Ethan had ever heard. They're here, he said, relief flooding through him. Red and blue lights splashed across the walls. Heavy footsteps on the porch. Paramedics, we're coming in. Kitchen, Ethan shouted. In the kitchen. They came in like a storm. 2 paramedics in dark blue uniforms, carrying bags and equipment, moving with practiced efficiency. A woman with short brown hair took one look at Claire and immediately started barking orders to her partner. Trauma to the head. Unconscious. Pulse is weak and thready. Get me a C-collar and backboard. Now. Ethan scrambled out of the way, pulling the twins with him. They resisted, reaching for their mother, but he held them gently, firmly. Let them work. They're going to help her. More people arrived. Police officers, their radios crackling. Another pair of paramedics who immediately focused on the girls. Let's get you 2 checked out, okay? You're safe now. No, Lily screamed. We stay with Mom. We're not leaving. Sophie's voice was raw with panic. The female paramedic working on Claire looked up, her face grim. We need to transport immediately. She's critical. Are these her children? Yes, Ethan said. Twins, Lily and Sophie. They can ride in the second ambulance, but we need to move now. I'll go with them, Ethan said without thinking. They're terrified. They shouldn't be alone. A police officer, young, with a kind face, nodded. That's probably best. We'll need statements from all of you anyway. Sir, what's your relationship to the victim? Ethan almost laughed at the absurdity. We've never met. I was supposed to have dinner with her tonight. She never showed up. Then her daughters found me on the street. The officer's eyebrows shot up, but there was no time for questions. The paramedics were already lifting Claire onto a backboard, moving her toward the door. Her face was covered with an oxygen mask now, an IV line already running into her arm. Let's go, the lead paramedic shouted. We're losing her. The next few minutes blurred into chaos. Ethan found himself in the back of an ambulance with both twins pressed against his sides, their small bodies shaking with sobs. Another paramedic was checking them over, cleaning Lily's face wound, examining Sophie's shoulder, asking gentle questions they barely responded to. Through the rear window, Ethan watched the first ambulance pull away, lights flashing, siren wailing. Claire was in there, fighting for her life. Where are we going? Sophie whispered. County General Hospital, the paramedic said. It's the closest trauma center. Is our mom going to die? Lily asked, her voice small and broken. The paramedic hesitated, just for a second, but Ethan saw it. The doctors there are the best. They're going to do everything they can. It wasn't an answer. It was the truth spoken kindly, but both girls heard what wasn't said. They pressed closer to Ethan, and he wrapped his arms around them, holding them steady as the ambulance lurched forward. I've got you, he murmured. You're not alone. I've got you both. He meant it. He didn't know why, didn't understand the fierce protectiveness that had seized him from the moment these children had crashed into his life. But he knew, with absolute certainty, that he wasn't leaving them. Not tonight. Not until he knew they were safe. The ambulance swayed around corners. The twins cried softly. Ethan held them and watched the city lights blur past the window, thinking about the dinner reservation he'd never made it to, the blind date that had never happened, the quiet night alone he'd been dreading. Instead, he was here, covered in a stranger's blood, holding her terrified daughters while their mother fought for her life somewhere ahead in the darkness. The universe worked in strange ways. 20 minutes later, they arrived at County General. The ambulance doors flew open, and suddenly they were moving, being ushered through automatic doors into the bright, antiseptic chaos of the emergency room. Nurses and doctors moved past them at a run. Monitors beeped. Someone was shouting for O-negative blood. Ethan caught a glimpse of Claire being wheeled past at a dead run, surrounded by a trauma team. Then she was gone, through a set of double doors that swung shut behind her. A nurse with gray hair and tired eyes approached them. You're with the assault victim? These are her daughters, Ethan explained. I brought them in. The nurse looked at the twins, her expression softening. Let's get you girls into a room so we can take care of those cuts, okay? And we'll get you something warm to drink. We want to see our mom, Lily protested. She's in surgery right now, sweetheart. The doctors are taking very good care of her. But we need to take care of you too. Can you be brave for me? The twins looked at Ethan, their eyes pleading. I'll stay with them, he promised, every step of the way. They were led to a small examination room. The nurse was gentle and efficient, cleaning wounds, checking for injuries beyond the obvious cuts and bruises. Both girls had minor concussions, she said. Lots of bruises. They were lucky. The physical damage could have been so much worse. The emotional damage? That was a different story, written in their hollow eyes and trembling hands. A doctor came in, a man in his 50s with graying temples and a gentle manner. He asked questions. Where did it hurt? When did it happen? Can you tell me what you remember? The twins took turns speaking, their voices flat with shock. They'd been upstairs doing homework when their father had arrived with his friends. They heard shouting, crashing, their mother screaming. They'd hidden at first, terrified, but when the noises wouldn't stop, when they heard their mother begging, pleading, they tried to help. He pushed us down, Sophie said, touching her shoulder. Told us to stay out of it or we'd get worse. We ran when they left, Lily continued. Mom told us to run. She said it before she stopped talking. So we ran. You did exactly the right thing, the doctor assured them. You were so brave. You saved your mother's life by getting help. A police officer arrived to take statements. Ethan told his story, the blind date that never happened, the girls finding him, the run through dark streets. The officer listened, took notes, asked for contact information. The father, Ethan asked, has he been found? Not yet. We've issued a bolo. Be on the lookout. We have his vehicle description and last known address. Don't worry, we'll find him. The hours crawled past. 10 o'clock. 11. Midnight. The twins fell into an exhausted sleep on the examination table, curled together like two halves of the same whole. Ethan sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair watching them, thinking about his own son asleep safely at his sister's house. These girls had watched their father beat their mother nearly to death. His phone buzzed. Rachel, calling for the third time tonight. He stepped into the hallway to answer. Where the hell are you? His sister demanded. I've been calling for hours. Marcus wants to say goodnight, but you're not home. You're not answering. I'm at County General Hospital, Ethan said quietly. Silence. Then, what happened? Are you okay? I'm fine. Rachel, it's complicated. You know that woman you set me up with? Claire. Your date? What about her? She never showed up because someone was beating her to death in her home. Her daughters found me on the street. I called 911, came here with them. She's in surgery now. More silence. Then, in a much softer voice, "Oh my God, Ethan, is she—" "I don't know. They won't tell me anything. I'm not family." "The girls, are they hurt?" "Minor injuries. They're asleep now. Rachel, they're terrified. They have nobody. I can't just leave them." "Of course not," Rachel said immediately. "Stay as long as you need. Marcus is fine here. He can stay the weekend if necessary." "Do you need me to come?" "No, I needed to let you know where I was. Keep me posted, okay? And Ethan, what you're doing, staying with those girls, that's really good of you." He wasn't sure it was good. He wasn't sure it was anything except the only possible choice. "I'll call you tomorrow." He ended the call and turned back toward the examination room, then froze. A doctor in bloodstained scrubs was walking toward him, her expression grave. Ethan's heart dropped into his stomach. "Are you with Claire Madden?" the doctor asked. "Her daughters are in there. I brought them in. How is she?" The doctor pulled off her surgical cap, revealing sweat-dampened hair. She looked exhausted. "She's alive. That's the good news. But she's critical. Severe skull fracture, intracranial bleeding, broken ribs, internal bruising. We've relieved the pressure on her brain and stopped the bleeding, but the next 24 hours are crucial." "Will she wake up?" "We've induced a medical coma to give her body time to heal. When we bring her out of it, if we bring her out of it successfully, we won't know the extent of potential brain damage until she's conscious and responsive." If, that terrible word hung in the air. "Can the girls see her?" Ethan asked. The doctor hesitated. "She's in the ICU. Normally we don't allow children, but given the circumstances, brief visits, supervised. They should understand she won't look the way they remember. She's on a ventilator, heavily bandaged, connected to monitors. It can be frightening. They've already seen her bleeding out on the kitchen floor. I think they need to see she's still breathing." The doctor nodded slowly. "Give us an hour to get her settled, then I'll take them up." She walked away, and Ethan sagged against the wall, sudden exhaustion crashing over him. Claire was alive. The words repeated in his mind like a prayer. She was alive. He went back into the room. Both twins were stirring, blinking awake in the harsh fluorescent light. "Ethan," Sophie's voice was tiny, scared. "I'm here. Is Mom—" "She made it through surgery," he said, sitting beside them. "She's alive. She's sleeping now while her body heals. The doctor says you can see her soon." Lily's face crumpled. We thought she was dead. There was so much blood." "She's tough," Ethan said, though he'd never met the woman, though he knew nothing about her except that she'd been kind enough to agree to a blind date and unlucky enough to have a monster in her past. "She's fighting hard." An hour later, they rode the elevator up to the ICU in silence. The halls were quiet, dim, punctuated by the soft beeping of monitors and the whisper of ventilators. A nurse led them to a glass-walled room at the end of the corridor. "Remember," the doctor said gently, crouching before the twins. "She looks different than she did at home, but it's still your mom. She can hear you even if she can't respond. Talk to her. Let her know you're here." They pushed open the door. Claire Madden lay in the bed, almost unrecognizable beneath bandages and tubes and wires. Her head was wrapped in gauze. A ventilator tube protruded from her mouth. IVs ran into both arms. Monitors blinked and beeped around her, tracking every heartbeat, every breath, but her chest rose and fell. She was breathing. She was alive. The twins approached slowly, hesitantly, as if afraid she might shatter. They each took one of her hands, so carefully, so gently. "Mommy?" Lily whispered. "We're here. We're okay." "You're going to be okay too," Sophie added, tears streaming down her face. "The doctors fixed you. You just have to wake up." Ethan stood in the doorway, giving them space, his own eyes burning. He thought about his blind date, the woman who'd never shown up because she'd been fighting for her life. He thought about how close he'd come to just going home, getting takeout, watching TV while two little girls screamed for help in the dark. Timing, chance, fate, whatever you wanted to call it. He'd been in the right place at the right moment, and somehow, impossibly, these strangers had become his responsibility, his purpose, his reason for being in this hospital at 2 in the morning instead of home asleep. "Thank you for coming," Sophie said suddenly, looking back at him. "Thank you for not leaving us." "I'm not going anywhere," Ethan promised. And he meant it. Whatever came next, police investigations, hospital stays, child services, the long road to recovery, he would be there. For these girls, for their mother, for as long as they needed him. The blind date had never happened, but something else had begun. Something that felt like destiny. The night stretched on in that strange, suspended way that hospital nights do. Time moving both too slowly and too quickly, marked only by the steady beep of monitors and the soft shuffle of nurses making their rounds. Ethan sat in a chair between the twins' beds in the pediatric observation ward, his head tilted back against the wall, eyes closed, but not sleeping. He couldn't sleep. Every time he started to drift, he saw Claire's broken body on that kitchen floor, heard the girls' terrified screams echoing through dark streets. Around 4 in the morning, a nurse brought him terrible coffee in a styrofoam cup. He drank it anyway, grateful for something to do with his hands. "You should go home," she said softly, glancing at the sleeping twins. "Get some rest. We'll call if anything changes." "I can't leave them," Ethan replied, his voice rough with exhaustion. "They wake up every hour screaming. They need to see a familiar face." The nurse nodded with understanding. She'd probably seen of this before. Trauma, terror, children clinging to whatever anchor they could find in the storm. "You're a good father." "I'm not their father," Ethan said quickly. Too quickly. The nurse raised an eyebrow, but said nothing, just patted his shoulder and moved on to check the twins' vitals. But the words stuck with him. He wasn't their father. He was nobody to them, really. A stranger who'd happened to be walking down the right street at the right moment. Yet here he was, spending the night in a hospital chair, unwilling to leave them alone. Dawn broke gray and cold through the hospital windows. The twins woke together, as if some invisible signal passed between them. They sat up simultaneously, identical expressions of confusion giving way to remembered horror. "Mom," Lily started. "She's still in the ICU," Ethan said gently, standing to stretch his aching back. "Still sleeping. The nurses say she had a stable night." "Can we see her?" Sophie asked. "After breakfast. The doctor said we can visit every few hours." Neither girl wanted breakfast, but Ethan insisted. A hospital volunteer brought trays of scrambled eggs, toast, and orange juice. The twins picked at their food, managing only a few bites before giving up. Ethan couldn't blame them. His own stomach was twisted in knots. At 7:30, a woman in a gray suit arrived. She had kind eyes and a professional smile that didn't quite reach them. "Good morning. I'm Linda Chambers from Child Protective Services." Ethan felt the twins tense on either side of him. He put a hand on each of their shoulders. "Is that necessary? They're not in danger anymore." "It's protocol, Mr." She paused, consulting her tablet. "Cole. Ethan Cole. Mr. Cole. When a child witnesses domestic violence, especially violence of this severity, we're required to conduct a welfare check and ensure appropriate placement while the custodial parent is incapacitated." "Placement?" Lily's voice climbed toward panic. "What does that mean?" Linda crouched down to the girl's level. "It means we need to find somewhere safe for you to stay while your mother recovers. Do you have family nearby? Grandparents? Aunts or uncles?" The twins looked at each other, a silent conversation passing between them. Sophie spoke first. "Grandma died last year. Grandpa lives in Florida. We've never met him." "Mom's sister is in California," Lily added. "But they don't talk anymore. Not since—" She stopped, glancing at Ethan uncertainly. "Not since the divorce," Sophie finished quietly. "Aunt Jennifer said Mom made her own choices and had to live with them." Linda's expression tightened with barely concealed disapproval, but she kept her voice gentle. "What about your father's family?" Both girls recoiled as if she'd suggested sending them to prison. "No," Lily said flatly. "Never." "They're as bad as he is," Sophie whispered. "Maybe worse." Old Linda typed notes into her tablet. I understand this is difficult. Without suitable family placement, we'll need to arrange temporary foster care until your mother— No! Both twins spoke at once, their voices sharp with terror. We're not going with strangers. Lily grabbed Ethan's arm. We want to stay with Ethan. Linda looked up sharply. Mr. Cole, what is your relationship to the family? Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. How did he explain this? I was supposed to meet their mother for a date. We'd never met before. The girls found me on the street when, after the attack, I brought them here. Linda's eyebrows rose incrementally. So you're essentially a stranger to these children. He saved our mom's life, Sophie protested. He stayed with us all night. He's not a stranger. We trust him, Lily added fiercely. We don't trust anyone else. Girls, I understand you've been through something traumatic, Linda began, her voice taking on that careful, therapeutic tone professionals use with frightened children. But Mr. Cole isn't family, and he hasn't been vetted through our system. The foster families we work with are trained, background checked. I have a background check, Ethan heard himself say. I passed one 6 months ago for my son's school volunteer program. I can provide references. I have a stable job, a clean apartment, no criminal record. Linda studied him with new interest. You have a son? Marcus. He's 8. He's with my sister right now. And you're suggesting you take in 2 traumatized children you've known for less than 12 hours? When she put it like that, it sounded insane. Ethan knew it was insane. But he looked at the twins' faces, saw the raw terror at the thought of being separated from the one person who'd been with them through the worst night of their lives, and he couldn't say no. Temporarily, he said. Just until their mother can take them back. They need stability right now, not another upheaval. They've been through enough. Linda was quiet for a long moment, tapping her stylus against her tablet. The standard procedure would traumatize them further, Ethan interrupted. You said it yourself. They witnessed extreme violence. They've lost their sense of safety. Sending them to strangers' homes will only reinforce that the world isn't safe, that adults can't be trusted. And you think you can provide that safety? You're a single parent yourself, working full-time. I'll take time off work. I'll do whatever's necessary. Linda sighed, and Ethan could see the internal debate playing out behind her eyes. Policy versus compassion, rules versus reality. I'd need to do a home visit, interview you extensively, contact your references, run a full background check, not just what your son's school required. And this would be strictly temporary emergency placement, subject to review. Whatever you need, Ethan said. Just don't make them go with strangers. Please, Lily whispered, please let us stay with him. Linda looked at the twins, then at Ethan, then back at her tablet. She typed something, frowned, typed again. This is highly irregular, she muttered. Then, louder. I can authorize a 72-hour emergency placement while we process the paperwork. But Mr. Cole, understand that you're taking on a serious responsibility. These girls will need therapy, medical follow-ups, possibly long-term counseling. They've witnessed something no child should ever see. I understand. And if at any point I determine the placement isn't in their best interest, they'll be removed immediately. I understand, Ethan repeated. Linda nodded slowly. All right, I'll start the paperwork. In the meantime, she turned to the twins. I'd like to speak with each of you privately, just for a few minutes. Standard procedure to ensure you're safe and understand what's happening. Is that okay? The girls looked to Ethan. He nodded encouragingly. It's okay. I'll be right outside the door. He stepped into the hallway, his heart pounding. What had he just done? He'd essentially volunteered to become a foster parent to 2 traumatized children he'd met in the middle of a crisis. His ex-wife would say it was typical, Ethan jumping in to save people, to fix things, without thinking through the consequences. His therapist would probably say the same thing, though more gently. But when he thought about those girls being loaded into a car with strangers, driven to an unfamiliar house, told to sleep in an unfamiliar bed, no, he'd made the right choice. He had to believe that. 20 minutes later, Linda emerged, the twins trailing behind her. Mr. Cole, can we talk? They moved down the hallway, out of the girls' earshot. Linda's expression was serious. They told me what happened last night, what they saw, what their father and his friends did to their mother. She paused, choosing her words carefully. The level of violence was extreme, and this wasn't the first time. They mentioned previous incidents, though never this severe. There's a history of domestic abuse. Does he have custody rights? Ethan asked. According to the records I pulled, there's a restraining order. He's not supposed to be within 500 feet of Claire or the girls. Obviously, he violated that. Linda's voice hardened. The police have issued a warrant for his arrest, assault with intent to kill, violation of a protective order, child endangerment. When they find him, he won't be getting out on bail. When? Not if? These guys always turn up eventually. Usually when they run out of money or places to hide. Linda glanced back at the twins, who were sitting on a bench, holding hands, watching the adults talk. Those girls are terrified he'll come back. They're convinced he'll try to finish what he started. I won't let that happen, Ethan said firmly. You can't promise that. None of us can. But Linda handed him a business card. Here's my number. Call me if anything feels wrong, if you're overwhelmed, if the girls need more support than you can provide. And Mr. Cole, what you're doing is commendable. Just make sure you're ready for how hard it's going to be. An hour later, after more paperwork and a brief visit to Claire's ICU room where she lay unchanged, still unconscious, still breathing through machines, Ethan led the twins out to his car. They climbed into the back seat without being asked, sitting close together, staring out the windows at the morning traffic. The drive to Ethan's apartment complex was quiet. He tried to make small talk, asking about school, their favorite subjects, hobbies, but got only one-word answers. Trauma had stolen their voices, left them hollow and distant. His apartment was on the third floor of a modest building in a decent neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that opened into a living room with a TV and a couch that had seen better days. It was clean, at least. Ethan had made sure of that before Marcus came to stay on weekends. This is it, he said, unlocking the door and pushing it open. It's not much, but it's nice, Sophie said quietly, stepping inside. It feels safe. That simple observation hit Ethan harder than he expected. When had their own home stopped feeling safe? How long had they lived in fear before last night's violence? You girls must be exhausted, Ethan said. My son's room has bunk beds. You can rest there. I'll take the couch. Where's your son? Lily asked, looking around as if Marcus might appear from behind the furniture. With his aunt. He'll be back tomorrow. You'll like him. He's 8. About your age, I'm guessing? We're 7, Sophie said. We'll be 8 next month, December 7th. Yeah? Ethan smiled. Marcus is December 12th, almost the same birthday. The twins exchanged glances, and for the first time since he'd met them, something like curiosity flickered in their eyes. But it vanished quickly, swallowed again by exhaustion and grief. Ethan showed them to Marcus's room. His son's personality was everywhere. Superhero posters on the walls, action figures on the shelves, books scattered across the bottom bunk. The twins stood in the doorway, hesitant. It's okay, Ethan assured them. Marcus won't mind. He likes sharing. They climbed onto the bottom bunk together, curling up side by side without bothering to get under the covers. Within minutes, both were asleep, their breathing synchronized, their hands clasped between them, even in sleep. Ethan watched them for a moment, then carefully closed the door halfway and returned to the living room. He sank onto the couch, pulled out his phone, and stared at it. He needed to call work, explain why he wasn't coming in. He needed to call Rachel, tell her what happened. He needed to figure out how to care for 2 traumatized children when he barely managed to parent his own son half the time. Instead, he just sat there, the morning sun streaming through the windows, exhaustion finally catching up with him. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe to accept. Mr. Cole, this is Detective Sarah Martinez with the Metro Police Department. I'm investigating the assault on Claire Madden. Do you have time to answer some questions? Of course. Can you walk me through what happened last night, from the beginning? Ethan recounted it all. The failed blind date, the girls finding him, the run through dark streets, the destroyed house, Claire unconscious and bleeding. Detective Martinez listened without interrupting, asking occasional clarifying questions. And you'd never met Miss Madden before last night? She asked when he finished. Never, My sister set up the date. I didn't even know what Claire looked like until I saw her in that kitchen. Interesting timing, Martinez mused. If you'd left that restaurant 5 minutes earlier or later, those girls might not have found you. I know, Ethan said quietly. I think about that. Mr. Cole, I need to ask, the girls told us you've taken them in temporarily. Is that correct? Child Services approved a 72-hour emergency placement. Their mother has no family available, and the girls were terrified of going to strangers. I understand. I'm going to be frank with you. This is a dangerous situation. Claire's ex-husband, Daniel Madden, has a history of violence. Multiple arrests for assault, though most charges were dropped. The restraining order was issued 4 months ago after he broke into her home and threatened her. She pressed charges that time. And he was just out walking around free to do this? Ethan couldn't keep the anger out of his voice. He made bail, failed to appear for his court date. There was a warrant out for his arrest even before last night. Martinez sighed. The system failed her. It fails a lot of women. But that's not why I'm calling. Mr. Cole, Daniel knows his daughters witnessed what he did. They can testify against him. That makes them targets, Ethan finished, his blood running cold. You think he'll come after them? I think it's a possibility we need to take seriously. He's desperate, he's violent, and he has nothing to lose at this point. I'm arranging for patrol cars to drive by your building regularly. I'd also suggest you be extremely careful about who knows where those girls are staying. Understood. Keep your doors locked. Don't open them for anyone you don't know. If you see anything suspicious, and I mean anything, you call 911 immediately. Don't try to be a hero. Too late for that, Ethan muttered. Martinez gave a dry chuckle. Yeah, I suppose it is. But Mr. Cole, those girls are lucky you were there. Make sure they stay lucky. After hanging up, Ethan sat in silence, processing. He'd known this was serious, but hearing it laid out so bluntly by a detective, targets, danger, patrol cars, made it real in a new way. He wasn't just providing shelter for traumatized children, he was potentially putting himself and Marcus in danger. But what choice did he have? Send the twins into the foster system, alone and terrified? Let them wake up in a stranger's house, wondering if their mother was dead or alive? No, he'd made his choice. He'd see it through. He spent the rest of the morning preparing. He went to the grocery store, bought food he thought kids might like, chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, apples, cookies. He stopped at Target, picked up toothbrushes, pajamas, and what he guessed were the right sizes, a few changes of clothes. The cashier gave him an odd look as he checked out with 2 of everything, but he didn't offer an explanation. When he got back to the apartment, the twins were awake, sitting on the couch, watching TV with blank expressions. They'd turned on a cartoon, but didn't seem to be actually seeing it. Hey, Ethan said softly, setting down his bags. I got you some things. Clothes, toothbrushes, basics. We can get more if you need anything specific. Thank you, Sophie said automatically, her voice flat. When can we see Mom again? Lily asked. Visiting hours at the ICU are 2 to 4 this afternoon. We can go then. The hours until 2 o'clock stretched interminably. The twins picked at lunch, took showers in Marcus's oversized superhero towels, changed into the new clothes Ethan had bought. They looked smaller in the fresh clothes somehow, more vulnerable. At 1:30, they piled back into the car for the drive to the hospital. Traffic was heavier now, midday Saturday, everyone out running errands or heading to lunch. Normal people doing normal things. Ethan wondered what that felt like. The ICU hadn't changed, the same quiet halls, the same beeping monitors, the same smell of antiseptic and illness. Claire's room was exactly as they'd left it that morning. Tubes, wires, bandages, machines. But as they approached, a nurse intercepted them. Are you family? Her daughters, Ethan said, gesturing to the twins. The nurse's expression softened. The doctor wanted to speak with you. Let me page her. 5 minutes later, the same surgeon from the night before appeared, still looking exhausted despite presumably having slept. She pulled Ethan aside while the twins visited their mother. How is she? Ethan asked. Stable. Better than I expected, honestly. The brain swelling is responding to treatment. We're cautiously optimistic. Cautiously, Ethan repeated. What does that mean? It means she's not out of the woods, The next several days are critical, but if she continues to improve at this rate, we might be able to lift the sedation in 72 hours and see if she can breathe on her own. And if she can, then we wait for her to wake up. The doctor glanced at the twins, who were sitting beside Claire's bed, talking to her in quiet voices. Brain injuries are unpredictable. She might wake up perfectly fine. She might have memory loss, motor function issues, personality changes. We won't know until she's conscious. Can she hear them? The girls? Maybe. We're not sure how much awareness coma patients have, but it can't hurt. Familiar voices might help orient her when she wakes up. Ethan spent the next half hour watching the twins talk to their unconscious mother. They told her about Ethan's apartment, about the bunk beds, about the cartoon they'd watched that morning. Simple things, mundane things, the kind of everyday details that made up a life. "We miss you, Mommy," Lily whispered. "Please wake up soon." On the drive back to the apartment, Sophie asked the question Ethan had been dreading. "What if she doesn't wake up? What happens to us?" "She's going to wake up," Ethan said firmly. "But what if she doesn't?" Lily pressed. "Do we have to go live with strangers?" "Let's not worry about that right now. Let's focus on—" "We always have to worry about it," Sophie interrupted, her voice cracking. "That's what grown-ups don't understand. We always have to have a plan for when bad things happen, because bad things always happen to us." The words hit Ethan like a punch. These 7-year-old girls had learned to expect the worst from life, had learned that safety was temporary, that protection was an illusion, that the adults who were supposed to keep them safe might be the ones who hurt them most. "Listen to me," Ethan said, pulling the car over into a parking lot because this conversation needed his full attention. He turned in his seat to face them. "I know you've been through things no kid should go through. I know you've learned that the world can be scary and unfair, and I can't promise you that nothing bad will ever happen again." Both girls stared at him, waiting for the but. "But I can promise you this," Ethan continued. "While you're with me, I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. I will not hurt you. I will not let anyone else hurt you, and I will not abandon you. Whatever happens with your mom, and she's going to be okay, but even if the worst happened, you wouldn't be alone. You'd have me, and my son, and my sister. You'd have people who care about you." "You barely know us," Lily said quietly. "That doesn't matter. I know enough." Ethan paused, trying to find the right words. Sometimes people come into your life in unexpected ways. Sometimes you meet someone and you just know, this person matters. This person is supposed to be in my life. That's how I feel about you two. From the moment you found me on that street, I knew I was supposed to help you. And I'm not going to stop helping you just because things get complicated. Sophie wiped her eyes. "You mean that?" "I mean that. Even though we're not your kids?" "Even though." The twins looked at each other, having one of their silent conversations. Then Lily said, "Okay, we trust you." 3 of the simplest words Ethan had ever heard, and they carried the weight of the world. That evening, Rachel brought Marcus home. Ethan had called ahead to explain the situation, at least the basics. His sister arrived with a casserole, an overnight bag for Marcus, and 1,000 questions in her eyes. "These must be Lily and Sophie," Rachel said warmly, crouching down to the twins' level. "I'm Rachel, Ethan's sister. I'm so sorry about what happened to your mom." The twins mumbled shy hellos, standing close together, watching this new person with wary eyes. Marcus, on the other hand, was vibrating with curiosity. "Dad said you're staying with us. Do you like video games? Do you want to see my action figures? I have like 1,000,000. Well, not really 1,000,000, but a lot. Do you like superheroes?" The barrage of questions seemed to startle the twins out of their shock. Sophie gave a tiny smile. "I like superheroes. Wonder Woman is the best." "Wrong. Iron Man is the best," Marcus declared, but he was grinning. "But Wonder Woman is pretty cool too. Come on, I'll show you my room." He grabbed both twins' hands and dragged them down the hallway, chattering nonstop. Ethan and Rachel watched them go. "That's your son," Rachel said dryly. Never met a stranger." "I know. I'm hoping it helps." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "They've barely said 10 words all day. Maybe being around another kid will help them feel normal." Rachel set the casserole in the kitchen, then turned to her brother, her expression serious. "Ethan, are you sure about this? Taking in two traumatized girls you don't know? No, Ethan admitted. I'm not sure about anything, but what else was I supposed to do? Let the professionals handle it. Child services, foster care, they're trained for this. They're also overworked and underfunded. Those girls would have been split up, sent to different homes, treated like problems to be processed instead of children who need stability. And you can provide that stability? You're barely managing your own life post-divorce. Ethan flinched. That's not fair. It's true, Rachel said, but her voice was gentle. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to make sure you understand what you're taking on. These girls have serious trauma. They're going to need therapy, possibly medication, constant support. And their father is still out there, a violent man who might come looking for them. You could be putting yourself and Marcus in danger. I know all that, Ethan said. The detective already warned me. But Rachel, you weren't there. You didn't see them covered in blood, terrified that their mother was dead, begging me to help. How do I walk away from that? How do I tell them sorry? You're not my problem. Rachel was quiet for a moment, then she sighed. You don't, because you're you, the guy who adopts three-legged dogs and volunteers at homeless shelters and can't pass a person holding a sign without giving them money. You see suffering and you have to fix it. Is that a bad thing? No, Rachel said softly. It's one of the things I love most about you. It's also one of the things that worries me most, because you give everything to help people, and sometimes there's nothing left for yourself. I'll be okay. Will you? She looked toward the hallway where children's voices drifted, Marcus still chattering, the twins offering occasional quiet responses. What happens when their mother wakes up and takes them home? What happens to you when you have to say goodbye to two little girls you've gotten attached to? Ethan didn't have an answer for that. Dinner that night was surprisingly close to normal. The casserole Rachel brought was perfect. Chicken and rice, comfort food that even traumatized children could stomach. Marcus kept up a running commentary about school, his friends, the video game he was playing, filling the silence whenever the twins got too quiet. After dinner, they watched a movie, some animated thing about talking animals that Marcus insisted was actually really funny. The twins sat on either side of Ethan on the couch, gradually relaxing, even laughing a few times at the jokes. Bedtime came too quickly. Marcus volunteered to take the top bunk so the twins could share the bottom, which they seemed to prefer. Neither wanted to sleep alone. Ethan tucked them all in, feeling wildly out of his depth. Ethan? Sophie's voice came from the darkness after he'd turned off the lights. Yeah? Can you leave the door open? And the hall light on? Of course. And Lily's voice now, small and scared. If we have nightmares, can we come get you? Absolutely. I'll be right there on the couch. Anytime you need me. He left the door cracked, light spilling in from the hallway, and returned to the living room. The couch felt harder than usual as he lay down, a pillow behind his head, a blanket Rachel had brought pulled over him. Sleep didn't come easy. Every sound made him tense, the building settling, neighbors moving around, distant sirens. He kept thinking about Detective Martinez's warning. Daniel Madden was out there somewhere, violent, desperate, possibly looking for his daughters. Around midnight, soft footsteps approached. Both twins appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the hall light. We can't sleep, Lily whispered. Ethan sat up. Bad dreams? They nodded in unison. Come here. He scooted over, making room on the couch. The twins climbed up, one on each side, curling against him. He pulled the blanket over all three of them. Better? Better, Sophie confirmed softly. They fell asleep like that. Two traumatized children and a man who'd become their unlikely protector, clustered together on a too-small couch, holding on to each other in the darkness, while somewhere in the city, a woman fought for her life and a violent man ran from consequences that were finally catching up with him. Morning came with three children piled on top of Ethan like puppies seeking warmth. Marcus had apparently abandoned the bunk beds sometime during the night and joined them on the couch. Ethan's back screamed in protest as he carefully extracted himself from the tangle of small bodies and blankets, trying not to wake them. He failed. Three pairs of eyes blinked open simultaneously. Is it time to see Mom? Lily asked immediately, her first thought upon waking. Visiting hours don't start until 9, Ethan said, checking his phone. 6:47. But we can get breakfast ready and head over after. The morning routine was chaotic in a way Ethan hadn't experienced since Marcus was a toddler. 3 kids needing 3 different things at once: bathroom schedules to coordinate, breakfast preferences to navigate, clothes that didn't quite fit properly to adjust. But there was something almost normal about it, something that felt less like crisis management and more like family. Marcus chattered nonstop through breakfast, seemingly immune to the heavy atmosphere. "Can I come to the hospital too? I want to see if it's like on TV. Do they really have those machines that go beep? Do the doctors wear those things around their necks? The listening things?" "Stethoscopes," Sophie supplied quietly. "And yes, they have machines that beep. Lots of them." "That's so cool." "Well, not cool that your mom is sick, but cool that—" Marcus stopped, his face scrunching up as he realized he was being insensitive. "Sorry, I didn't mean—" "It's okay," Lily said, giving him a small smile. "You're just excited. It's nice. Everything's been so sad." They arrived at County General just after 9. The ICU was busier during daylight hours, more doctors making rounds, more nurses changing shifts, more families clustered in waiting rooms with coffee cups and worried faces. Ethan checked in at the nurses' station, gave the twins' names, and waited for clearance. A different nurse than the night before reviewed the chart, then looked up with an expression Ethan couldn't quite read. "The doctor wants to speak with you before you go in." His stomach dropped. "Is something wrong?" "She'll explain. Just wait here." The next 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. The twins pressed close to Ethan's sides, sensing his tension. Marcus kept asking what was happening until Ethan gently told him to save his questions for later. Finally, Dr. Patel emerged from Claire's room, pulling off latex gloves. She was smiling, actually smiling, and Ethan felt the knot in his chest loosen slightly. "Good morning," she said. "I have good news. Claire's brain swelling has reduced significantly overnight. Her vitals are strong and stable. We're going to start reducing her sedation this morning." "What does that mean?" Sophie asked, her voice tight with hope and fear. "It means we're going to let her start waking up. It's a gradual process. We won't just flip a switch and she'll be awake. But over the next 12 to 24 hours, the sedatives will wear off, and we'll see if she can breathe on her own and regain consciousness." "And if she does," Ethan asked carefully, not wanting to get the twins' hopes up too much, but unable to suppress his own relief. "Then we'll assess her neurological function and begin the recovery process. She'll need extensive physical therapy, possibly speech therapy, depending on any cognitive effects. But Mr. Cole," Dr. Patel's smile widened, "she's showing every sign of a remarkable recovery. I've seen brain injuries half this severe result in much worse outcomes. Your friend is a fighter." "Can we see her?" Lily asked. "Of course, but remember she won't wake up right away. And when she does start to wake, she might be confused or agitated. That's normal. Don't be frightened." The twins nodded solemnly and followed the doctor into the ICU room. Ethan kept Marcus back, letting the girls have their moment first. Claire looked different than she had the day before. The worst of the facial swelling had gone down, revealing more of her features beneath the bruising. Her blonde hair had been washed, the blood cleaned away, though it was still tangled and dull. Without the immediate crisis hanging over her, Ethan could see what Rachel had meant about her being pretty. High cheekbones, a small nose, full lips that probably smiled easily when they weren't split and swollen. The twins approached the bed like they were approaching something sacred. Each took one of their mother's hands. "Mommy," Lily whispered, "the doctor says you're getting better, that you're going to wake up soon." "We've been staying with Ethan," Sophie added. "He's taking really good care of us. He bought us new clothes and made us breakfast and lets us sleep on the couch with him when we have nightmares. And he has a son named Marcus who's really nice and talks a lot, but in a good way." Ethan felt his throat tighten. These simple updates, delivered in the girls' soft voices, felt unbearably intimate, like he was witnessing something private, something meant only for a mother and her daughters. "We miss you so much," Lily continued, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Please wake up. Please come back to us." As if in response, though Ethan knew it was just coincidence, just timing, Claire's fingers twitched, just slightly, barely perceptible, but the twins saw it. She moved, Sophie gasped. Mom, can you hear us? If you can hear us, move your hand again. Everyone in the room held their breath, watching Claire's hand with laser focus. For a long moment, nothing. Then, there. Another small movement, fingers curling slightly inward. She can hear us! Lily was crying and laughing at the same time. Mommy, we're here! We're okay! You're going to be okay! Doctor. Patel stepped forward, checking monitors, making notes. This is very good. She's responding to familiar voices. Keep talking to her, girls. Let her know you're here. They stayed for an hour, the twins taking turns telling their mother about the past 2 days, carefully editing out the worst of the fear and trauma, focusing instead on Ethan's kindness, Marcus's jokes, the cartoon they'd watched, the hospital food they hadn't eaten. Normal things, safe things, the building blocks of life continuing despite catastrophe. When visiting hours ended and they had to leave, both twins were brighter than Ethan had seen them since Friday night. Hope, he realized, was powerful medicine. The next 3 days fell into a strange rhythm. Mornings meant getting 3 kids fed and dressed. Afternoons meant hospital visits, watching for tiny signs of improvement, a flutter of eyelids, a twitch of fingers, a change in breathing patterns. Evenings meant homework for Marcus, quiet activities for the twins, and everyone piled on the couch for movies or games before bed. Linda Chambers called every day, checking in, asking questions. She'd completed her home visit Monday afternoon, walking through the apartment with a critical eye while the kids were at school. Ethan had taken them to register the twins at Marcus's elementary school, a temporary enrollment just until Claire recovered, but the girls needed structure and normalcy. You're doing well, Linda had said on Tuesday, sounding almost surprised. The girls seem stable, happy even, considering the circumstances. They're amazing kids, Ethan replied, watching through the window as all 3 children played in the apartment complex's small courtyard. Marcus was teaching the twins some complicated hand-clapping game, and their laughter drifted up to the 3rd floor. The 72 hours are up, Linda continued. I can extend the emergency placement for 2 weeks while we continue assessing the situation. But Ethan, you need to prepare yourself. When Claire wakes up and recovers enough to take them home, you're going to have to let them go. He knew that. Of course he knew that. These weren't his daughters, and this wasn't permanent. But in just 3 days, they'd become woven into his life in a way he hadn't anticipated. The apartment felt fuller with them there. Marcus was thriving with siblings, even temporary ones. And the twins. They'd started smiling again, laughing again, being the children they were supposed to be instead of traumatized victims. I know, Ethan said quietly. I'm prepared. He wasn't sure if that was true. Wednesday afternoon brought the call they'd all been waiting for. Ethan was at his laptop, trying to catch up on work emails while the kids did homework at the kitchen table when his phone rang. County General Hospital. Mr. Cole, this is Dr. Patel. Claire is waking up. His heart leaped. She is? Is she okay? Can she talk? She's awake and responsive. She's still on oxygen and quite weak, but she's conscious and asking for her daughters. Can you bring them in? We'll be there in 20 minutes. He practically shouted the news to the kids. The twins' faces transformed, fear giving way to joy, hope becoming reality. They were in the car in under 5 minutes, Marcus chattering excitedly while the twins sat in tense silence, as if afraid that speaking might somehow jinx this miraculous turn of events. The ICU nurse met them with a smile. She's awake, but remember she's still very weak. Don't tire her out. And girls, she crouched down to the twins' level. Your mom doesn't remember everything that happened. The doctors say that's normal with head injuries. She might ask questions that seem strange. Just be patient with her, okay? They nodded, then practically ran to their mother's room. Claire was sitting up slightly, the ventilator tube removed, replaced with a simple oxygen cannula. Her eyes, bright blue, Ethan noticed for the first time, were open and focused. When she saw her daughters, her battered face crumpled and tears streamed down her cheeks. Babies, she whispered, her voice rough and broken. My babies. Mommy! The twins reached the bed and Claire wrapped her arms around them as best she could with IV lines still attached. All 3 were crying, holding each other, and Ethan felt like he was intruding on something too private for witnesses. He started to back out of the room, but Claire's eyes found him over the twins' heads. She studied him, this stranger who'd somehow become entangled in her family's worst nightmare, with an expression he couldn't read. "You're Ethan," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "The blind date," I stood up. Her lips curved in something that might have been an attempt at a smile. "I'm so sorry. I had every intention of showing up." "Don't apologize. I'm just glad you're okay. The girls told me everything. That you saved my life. That you took them in, kept them safe, stayed with them." Her voice broke. "I don't know how to thank you for that." "You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have—" "No," Claire interrupted softly but firmly. "Not anyone. Most people would have called 911 and left. You stayed. You protected my daughters when I couldn't. That's—" She had to stop, overcome with emotion. "That's everything." The twins were still clinging to her, their faces buried in her shoulders. Marcus stood awkwardly in the doorway with Ethan, trying to give the family space while being too curious not to watch. "How do you feel?" Sophie asked, pulling back to look at her mother. "Like I got hit by a truck," Claire admitted. "But I'm alive. I'm here. That's what matters." Her eyes shifted back to Ethan. "The police came by this morning. They told me Daniel is still at large, that he violated the restraining order and—" She stopped, glancing at her daughters, clearly not wanting to say more in front of them. "The girls are safe," Ethan said, understanding what she couldn't ask. "I've been careful. The police are monitoring my building. He doesn't know where they are." "But he'll figure it out eventually," Claire said, and beneath the gratitude in her voice was fear, raw and real. "He always does. He's relentless when he wants something." "Let's worry about that later," Dr. Patel interjected, entering the room with a tablet. "Right now, we focus on getting you healthy. Claire, how's your pain level?" "Manageable, 7 out of 10. We can increase your medication. You've been through severe trauma. There's no need to be a hero about pain management." The doctor made notes on her tablet. "I want to run some cognitive tests if you're up for it. Memory, motor function, that sort of thing." "Can the girls stay?" Claire asked. "Of course. This won't take long." Ethan took Marcus out to the waiting room, giving Claire privacy for the examination. They sat in uncomfortable plastic chairs, Marcus swinging his legs and watching nurses pass by. "Is she nice?" Marcus asked. "The twins' mom?" "I think so. I don't really know her yet. But you liked her enough to go on a date with her." "Your Aunt Rachel thought we'd get along. I was willing to give it a try." Marcus considered this. "Do you still want to date her, now that she's awake?" The question caught Ethan off guard. Did he? The circumstances were so bizarre, so removed from normal dating protocols, that he hadn't even considered it. Claire was the mother of 2 girls he'd been caring for, a woman who'd nearly been killed, a survivor of domestic violence with a dangerous ex-husband still on the loose. Dating was probably the last thing on anyone's mind. "I don't know, buddy. That's complicated." "Lily and Sophie are really cool," Marcus said. It'd be fun if they could stay with us forever. They have their own home, their own life. Once their mom is better, they'll go back to it." "Oh," Marcus looked disappointed. "I thought maybe, I don't know. It's been fun having them around, like having sisters." Ethan ruffled his son's hair. "I know, but we can still be friends with them after they leave. Visit them. Have them over for dinner. Just because they don't live with us doesn't mean they disappear." 20 minutes later, the twins emerged with Dr. Patel. Both girls were smiling, genuine, full smiles that transformed their faces. "She passed all the tests," Lily announced. "Her brain is working perfect." "Perfectly," Sophie corrected, then giggled. Actually, giggled. "Mom did that too. She corrected the doctor's grammar." Dr. Patel laughed. "Which is a very good sign. Her language centers are intact, her memory is sharp, and her motor control is excellent considering the severity of the injury. She's going to make a full recovery." The relief that washed over Ethan was physical. His shoulders dropped, his chest loosened, breath came easier. She was going to be okay. The twins would have their mother back. "When can she go home?" Sophie asked. "Not for a while yet," the doctor said gently. "She needs to regain her strength, complete physical therapy, and we need to monitor for any complications. I'd estimate 2 to 3 weeks before discharge. 2 to 3 weeks. Ethan did the math. That meant the twins would be with him for at least that long, probably longer, while Claire continued recovery at home. The temporary emergency placement would need to be extended, evaluated, reassessed. His phone buzzed. Detective Martinez. He excused himself and stepped into the hallway to answer. Mr. Cole, I have news. We found Daniel Madden. Ethan's pulse quickened. Where? Motel outside city limits. He put up a fight when we tried to bring him in. Assaulted 2 officers before we got him subdued. He's in custody now, facing multiple charges. Attempted murder, violation of a restraining order, assault on police officers, child endangerment. He's not making bail this time. That's incredible, thank you. There's more. We found evidence in his motel room, burner phones with messages to known associates, surveillance photos of your apartment building. Ethan's blood ran cold. What? He was planning something. We don't know exactly what, but he had your address, photos of the building entrance, what appears to be a schedule of when you come and go. Mr. Cole, if we hadn't caught him today... Martinez didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Jesus, Ethan breathed. You and those girls are safe now. He's going away for a long time. But I wanted you to know how close it was. You did the right thing keeping them with you, keeping them hidden. You probably saved their lives. After hanging up, Ethan stood in the hospital hallway, processing. Daniel had been watching them, planning something. If the police had been 1 day later, 1 hour later, he couldn't think about it. Couldn't go down that road of what-ifs and near misses. They were safe. That's what mattered. When he returned to the ICU waiting room, all 3 kids looked up expectantly. Everything okay? Lily asked, reading something in his expression. Ethan smiled, a real, genuine smile this time. Everything's great. That was the police. They found your dad. He's in jail. He can't hurt anyone anymore. The twins' reaction was immediate and visceral. Sophie burst into tears, but they were tears of relief, of a burden finally lifted. Lily just closed her eyes and swayed slightly, as if she might faint. Are you sure? She whispered. Are you absolutely sure? I'm sure. He's not getting out. You're safe. They let him hug them, both girls pressing their faces into his jacket and crying like the children they were. Children who'd been carrying the weight of fear and hypervigilance for far too long, finally allowed to set it down. The next 2 weeks transformed everyone. Claire grew stronger each day, progressing from bed rest to walking with assistance to taking slow laps around the ICU floor. The twins visited every afternoon, bringing homework to do at her bedside, telling her about school, about Marcus's jokes, about the surprisingly good lasagna Ethan had made for dinner. Ethan found himself visiting too, though he wasn't sure if it was to check on Claire's progress or because he was drawn to her in ways that felt inappropriate given the circumstances. But they talked, really talked, during those hospital visits. About her marriage to Daniel, the gradual escalation of abuse, the courage it took to finally leave him and file for the restraining order. About Ethan's divorce, his struggles with single parenthood, his desire to be better for Marcus than his own father had been for him. You're good with them, Claire said one afternoon, watching through the window as Ethan helped all 3 kids with a math worksheet in the waiting room. With the girls, they trust you completely. They're easy to care for. They're resilient. They shouldn't have to be, Claire said quietly, pain crossing her face. They should have had a normal childhood. They should have been protected. You did protect them. You got out. You filed the order. You did everything right. It wasn't enough. It was enough, Ethan insisted. You survived. They survived. Daniel's in prison. That's everything. Claire looked at him with those blue eyes that were regaining their brightness, their life. How do you do that? Do what? Stay so positive. See the good when everything's been terrible. I don't know, Ethan admitted. Maybe it's denial. Maybe it's hope. Maybe I'm just really bad at accepting when things are dark. Or maybe you're just kind, Claire said softly. Maybe that's your superpower, seeing people through their worst moments and believing they'll find their way to better ones. The conversation stayed with Ethan long after visiting hours ended and he'd taken the kids home. That night, after tucking everyone into bed, Marcus on top bunk, twins on bottom, all three asleep before he'd finished reading the bedtime story. He sat on the couch with a beer he didn't really want and thought about what happened next. Claire would be discharged soon. She'd need time to recover, to regain her full strength, to process the trauma of nearly being killed. The girls would move back home, back to their own rooms, their own routine. His apartment would be quiet again, just him and Marcus on the weekends, empty during the week. Part of him should have been relieved. His life would return to normal. Work, custody schedules, the mundane predictability of a divorced single dad. But normal felt hollow now. The past 2 weeks had been chaos, but they'd also been full in a way his life hadn't been in years. Friday morning, Dr. Patel called with discharge plans. Claire could go home Monday if she had adequate support and follow-up care arranged. "Here's the complication," Linda Chambers said when Ethan called to update her. "Claire's house is still a crime scene. The police finished processing it, but it's destroyed. Broken furniture, bloodstains, smashed windows. She can't take the girls back there. Not immediately. So what happens? We find temporary housing. Maybe a women's shelter with family accommodations. Or," Linda paused meaningfully, "the girls could stay with you a bit longer, just until Claire finds a new place, gets back on her feet." "How long are we talking?" "A month, maybe 2. It depends on how quickly she can secure housing and whether she's physically capable of caring for 2 active children while recovering from serious injuries." Ethan should have hesitated, should have considered the logistics, the complications, the growing attachment that would make goodbye even harder. Instead, he said, "They can stay as long as they need to." "You're sure? This isn't a small commitment, Ethan. This is potentially 2 more months of full-time parenting for children who aren't yours." "I'm sure." That evening, Ethan told the girls and Marcus together. They were eating pizza at the kitchen table, a Friday tradition Marcus had insisted they maintain when he cleared his throat. "I talked to the hospital today. Your mom is being discharged Monday." The twins' faces lit up. "She's coming home?" Sophie asked. "Sort of. Your house isn't livable right now. The damage from the attack is too extensive. So your mom is going to stay with your Aunt Rachel for a while, and you girls, if you want, can stay here with me until your mom finds a new place and is strong enough to take care of you full-time." "We can stay?" Lily's voice was small, hopeful, afraid to believe. "If you want to. Or we can find another arrangement, whatever you're comfortable with." "We want to stay," both twins said simultaneously. "Yes!" Marcus pumped his fist in the air. "Sisters!" "Temporary sisters," Ethan corrected gently, but he was smiling. "Still counts," Marcus declared. Saturday, they went furniture shopping. Ethan couldn't keep making 3 kids share 1 bedroom indefinitely. He bought bunk beds for his own room, letting the girls have Marcus's room to themselves. Marcus thought having bunk beds was the coolest thing ever, and immediately claimed the top. The twins helped him assemble everything, holding tools and reading instructions, and Ethan was struck by how naturally they worked together, like they'd been siblings for years instead of weeks. Sunday evening, they visited Claire one last time before her discharge. She was dressed in real clothes instead of a hospital gown, jeans and a sweater Rachel had brought, and sitting in a wheelchair not because she couldn't walk, but because hospital policy required it for discharge. "You look good, Mommy," Lily said, hugging her carefully. "I feel human again," Claire admitted. "Weak, but human." She looked at Ethan, gratitude and something else, something complicated, in her expression. "Rachel told me about the new arrangement, that you're keeping the girls while I recover. If that's okay with you, I know it's not ideal. It's more than okay. It's..." Claire's voice caught. "It's everything. I can't take care of them right now, not the way they need. Knowing they're with you, that they're safe and happy and being loved..." She stopped, wiping her eyes. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you for this." "You don't need to repay me. I love having them." "I can see that," Claire said softly, watching the way her daughters clung to him, the comfortable ease with which they existed in his space. "They love being with you too. They talk about you constantly. Ethan said this, Ethan made that, Ethan taught us this. You've become important to them very quickly. They're important to me too." The moment hung between them, heavy with things unsaid. Then Marcus bounded over, breaking the tension, and everyone laughed at whatever story he was telling about school, and the evening moved forward. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, the first real hint of winter settling over the city. Ethan took a personal day from work. He'd been taking a lot of those lately, piecing together childcare and hospital visits and meetings with social workers. His boss had been understanding, but Ethan knew he couldn't keep this up indefinitely. Real life would intrude eventually. Bills needed paying, careers needed tending. But not today. Today he drove to County General to watch Claire be officially discharged, to see the twins' faces when their mother walked out of the hospital on her own 2 feet instead of being wheeled out on a gurney. They were waiting in the lobby, Claire in her wheelchair with a nurse behind her, Rachel beside them with discharge paperwork and medication bottles. When Claire saw her daughters, she stood up carefully, slowly, and opened her arms. The twins ran to her, and all three held each other and cried happy tears while other people in the lobby pretended not to watch. "Okay, Mommy?" Sophie asked, pulling back to examine her mother's face. The bruises had faded to yellowish green, the swelling gone, stitches removed. She looked like herself again, just tired and thin. "More than okay," Claire assured her. "I'm here. I'm with you. We're all going to be fine." Ethan drove them to Rachel's house, a comfortable split level in the suburbs with the guest room prepared for Claire. Rachel had gone all out, setting up the room with flowers and books and a comfortable chair by the window. "This is too much," Claire protested, but her eyes were bright with gratitude. "It's exactly enough," Rachel said firmly. "You're family now, whether you like it or not. My brother saved your life. Your daughters have been living with him. We're entangled, all of us. So you're staying here, recovering properly, and letting people help you. Understood?" Claire laughed, the first time Ethan had heard her really laugh, and agreed. The twins stayed for lunch, but when it came time to leave, they went with Ethan without hesitation. They hugged their mother goodbye, promised to visit tomorrow after school, and climbed into Ethan's car like it was the most natural thing in the world. That night, as Ethan was doing dishes after dinner, his phone rang. "Claire." "Hey," he answered. "Is everything okay? Do you need something?" "No, I'm fine. Rachel's taking excellent care of me." Claire paused. "I just wanted to say thank you again for everything. I know I keep saying it, but I don't think I can say it enough." "You really don't need to thank me." "I do, though. Because what you've done, what you're doing, it's extraordinary. You took in two strangers' children in their worst moment. You gave up your life, your time, your space without hesitation. You've loved them like they're your own. That's not normal, Ethan. That's not what people do." "Maybe it should be," Ethan said quietly. "Maybe, but it isn't. You're special. I want you to know that." After hanging up, Ethan sat with those words. Special. He didn't feel special. He felt like he'd done the only thing possible, made the only choice available. But maybe that's what made it special, not seeing any other option except helping. The days began to blur together in the best possible way. School mornings became a well-choreographed dance. 3 kids needing breakfast, 3 backpacks to pack, 3 sets of shoes to find. Afternoons meant homework supervision and snack negotiations. Evenings meant dinner and stories, and everyone piled on Ethan's bed watching movies until they fell asleep. Claire visited when she was strong enough, spending afternoons with the girls at the apartment, reading to them or helping with homework. She and Ethan fell into an easy friendship, talking while the kids played, sharing coffee and conversations that ranged from superficial to surprisingly deep. "I think I'm ready to start looking for a new place," Claire said one afternoon in the 3rd week. "Rachel's been wonderful, but I need to get my life back. The girls need their mother, not their mother's friend who took them in." "They need both," Ethan said. "You and me, we're both part of their support system now." "Is that weird for you? Being part of someone else's family?" "No," Ethan said honestly. "It feels right. Like this is where I'm supposed to be." Claire looked at him with an expression he was starting to recognize. Affection mixed with uncertainty, gratitude tangled with something that might be attraction. "Ethan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay." "Why are you doing this, really? Because I keep trying to understand. You didn't know me. You don't owe me anything. Yet you've completely rearranged your life for me and my daughters. Why? Ethan thought about lying, about giving some simple answer about doing the right thing or being in the right place at the right time. But Claire deserved honesty. Because the first time I saw your daughters, they were terrified and bleeding and begging me to save their mother. And something in me just clicked, like I'd been waiting my whole life for someone to need me that much, to trust me that completely. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense, Claire said softly, because that's how I felt when I woke up and found out what you'd done. Like you were the answer to prayers I didn't even know I was praying. Their eyes met and held, and Ethan felt something shift, the foundation of their relationship adjusting, settling into something new. Something that looked a lot like the beginning of something neither of them had been looking for, but both desperately needed. Then Marcus burst into the room shouting about a spider in the bathroom, and the moment broke, and they were just two single parents dealing with the beautiful chaos of children. But the shift remained, hovering between them like a promise. A week later, in early December, with the twins' 8th birthday approaching, Detective Martinez called with news Ethan had been waiting for. Daniel Madden's trial date has been set, March 15th. The DA is confident about conviction. We have overwhelming evidence, multiple witnesses, his own daughters ready to testify, if necessary. Will they have to? Ethan asked, dreading the thought of putting the twins through that trauma. Probably not. His public defender is pushing for a plea deal. 25 years, no parole. He'd be almost 70 when he gets out. And he's going to take it? Between you and me? Yeah. He knows he's got no defense. The evidence is ironclad. This is his best option. Relief flooded through Ethan. It was really over. The girls could stop looking over their shoulders, stop flinching at loud noises, stop having nightmares about their father finding them. That evening, Ethan told Claire first, privately, before telling the girls. She sat down hard when she heard, her hand pressed to her chest. It's over, she whispered. It's really, finally over. It's over, Ethan confirmed. Claire started crying, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Ethan held her, let her break apart in the safety of knowing her nightmare had ended. When she finally stopped, she looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. I'm free, she said wonderingly. For the first time in 8 years, I'm actually free. They told the twins together. Both girls cried too, but like their mother, they were tears of relief, of endings and new beginnings. That night, for the first time since moving in, neither twin had nightmares. They slept through until morning, peaceful and safe, while in the next room, Ethan lay awake thinking about how a missed blind date had led him here. To a makeshift family built from crisis and kindness, to children who weren't his but felt like they could be, to a woman he'd never met who'd become the most important person in his life without either of them quite realizing how or when it happened. The universe worked in strange ways indeed. December arrived with snow that surprised no one but delighted the children anyway. Marcus pressed his face against the window at 6 in the morning, announcing to the entire apartment that it was snowing, actually snowing, and could they please go outside right now immediately before it all melted? The twins stumbled out of their room, rubbing sleep from identical eyes, and within minutes, all three were dressed in mismatched winter gear, begging Ethan to take them to the park. It's 6:15, Ethan groaned, but he was already reaching for his coat because he couldn't say no to 3 hopeful faces. Not anymore. Maybe he never could. They spent an hour in the empty park building, a snowman that looked more like a lumpy snow blob, having snowball fights that ended with everyone soaking wet and laughing, making snow angels until their fingers went numb. When they finally trudged back to the apartment, cheeks red and noses running, Ethan made hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, and they all huddled on the couch under blankets watching the snow fall outside. Best morning ever, Sophie declared, and her sister nodded agreement through a mouthful of marshmallows. Marcus looked at Ethan with an expression far too serious for an 8-year-old. Dad, can we do this every year? Even after Lily and Sophie go home, can we still have snow days together? Of course we can, Ethan promised, though the mention of the girls going home hit harder than he expected. They'd been with him for over a month now. The apartment didn't feel temporary anymore. It felt like this was just how things were, how they were meant to be. But Claire was getting stronger every day. She'd found an apartment, a 2-bedroom in a complex with security gates and cameras, A fresh start in a safe neighborhood far from the old house and its terrible memories. She'd signed the lease last week and would move in after Christmas, which meant the twins would move with her. Which meant Ethan's apartment would go back to being just him and Marcus every other weekend, empty and quiet the rest of the time. He tried not to think about it. The twins' birthday fell on a Saturday, and Claire insisted on celebrating at Ethan's apartment since that's where the girls were most comfortable. Rachel came with a cake she'd baked herself, a towering chocolate creation with purple frosting and edible flowers. Claire brought presents wrapped in shimmering paper. Even Ethan's ex-wife Jennifer dropped by briefly with a gift for Marcus, and polite smiles for everyone, though her eyes held questions she was too diplomatic to ask out loud. "Make a wish," everyone chorused as the twins leaned over their cake, 8 candles flickering between them. Ethan watched them close their eyes, their faces serious with the weight of 8-year-old wishes. What did they wish for? Safety? Happiness? A life that didn't hurt? He hoped whatever they wished for came true. They deserved every good thing the universe could offer. Later, after cake had been devoured and presents opened, art supplies and books, and matching necklaces from Claire that the twins immediately put on, everyone migrated to the living room. The adults ended up in the kitchen while the kids played in the bedroom, and conversation flowed easily the way it does when people have been through something extraordinary together. "You've done something remarkable here," Jennifer said to Ethan quietly, surprising him. They'd been divorced for 2 years and civil about co-parenting, but genuine compliments weren't her usual style. "Marcus has never been happier. And those girls, what you did for them." "I didn't do anything special," Ethan protested, uncomfortable as always with praise. "You took in 2 traumatized children who weren't yours and loved them like family," Jennifer said firmly. "That's the definition of special. I'm proud of you. I know things between us didn't work out, but you're a good man, Ethan. Better than I gave you credit for." After she left, Rachel cornered him by the sink while he was washing dishes. "So," she said with studied casualness that immediately put him on alert. "You and Claire. What about us?" "Don't play dumb. I see how you look at her, how she looks at you. Something's happening there." "Nothing's happening. We're friends. She's recovering from almost being murdered by her ex-husband. Romance is the last thing on anyone's mind." Rachel made a skeptical noise. "The heart doesn't care about timing or appropriate circumstances. It wants what it wants. And from where I'm standing, your heart wants Claire Madden. Even if that were true, which I'm not saying it is, it's complicated. I'm basically her daughter's foster parent. There are ethical considerations, power dynamics. Ethan," Rachel put a hand on his arm, stopping his spiral. "You saved her life. You protected her children. You gave them all a safe place to land. That's not a power dynamic. That's love in action. And if something more develops from that foundation, it won't be because of obligation or gratitude. It'll be because 2 people who've been through hell found something worth holding on to." Before Ethan could respond, Claire appeared in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but Sophie's asking for you. Something about teaching her the level 3 of some video game?" Ethan escaped gratefully, leaving Rachel smirking behind him. But his sister's words stayed with him, echoing in the back of his mind as he settled on the floor with 3 kids clustered around the TV, controllers in hand, arguing good-naturedly about strategies and whose turn it was. Claire sat on the couch watching them, and when Ethan glanced up, their eyes met. She smiled, soft and warm and full of something that made his chest tight. And he had to look away before his face gave away everything he was trying not to feel. Christmas came 2 weeks later, and the apartment transformed into a holiday explosion. Marcus insisted they needed the biggest tree possible, which translated to a 6-foot pine that barely fit in the living room and dropped needles everywhere. The twins had never decorated a Christmas tree before. Daniel had hated holidays, Claire explained quietly, said they were wasteful and stupid, so their wonder at stringing lights and hanging ornaments was profound and heartbreaking. "Can we put the star on top?" Lily asked, holding the glittering decoration reverently. "We'll need help reaching," Sophie added, eyeing the top of the tree skeptically. Ethan lifted both girls one at a time, and they placed the star together while Marcus directed from below like a tiny stage manager. When it was done and they plugged in the lights, all 3 children gasped at the transformation. "It's magic," Sophie whispered. "It's just electricity and bulbs," Marcus said with 8-year-old practicality. but even he looked enchanted by the soft glow filling the room. Claire had dinner with them on Christmas Eve, Rachel too, and a few of Ethan's friends who'd become curious about this makeshift family they kept hearing about. The apartment was packed, loud with conversation and laughter, and Ethan moved through it all feeling like he was watching a life he'd always wanted but never thought he'd have. Not like this, anyway. Not from such tragedy. After dinner, after the other guests had left and Rachel had gone home, Claire stayed to help clean up. The kids were in the bedroom having a pillow fight that sounded like it might bring down the ceiling, but both adults ignored it, content to let them burn off energy. "This was perfect," Claire said, drying dishes while Ethan washed. "I can't remember the last time the girls were this happy. Before Daniel, maybe. When they were babies and didn't understand yet that their father was—" She stopped, shaking her head. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't talk about him on Christmas." "You can talk about whatever you need to talk about," Ethan said gently. "That's what friends do." "Is that what we are? Friends?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Ethan kept his eyes on the soapy water, on the plate in his hands. "I don't know what we are. I just know I care about you, about your daughters, about all of this." He gestured vaguely at the apartment, the life they'd built in these past weeks. "I care about you too," Claire said quietly. "More than I probably should. More than makes sense given how we met and everything that's happened. But Ethan, I need to be honest about something." He finally looked at her, saw something like fear in her expression. "What is it?" "I'm terrified," she admitted, "of trusting again, of letting someone in. Daniel broke something in me, made me doubt my own judgment. For years I believed him when he said I was stupid, worthless, that no one would ever want me except him. Even now, even knowing intellectually that he was wrong, those words are still in my head, and the idea of trying to be with someone, of being vulnerable again." Her voice cracked. "I don't know if I can do it." Ethan set down the plate, dried his hands, and turned to face her fully. "Then don't. Don't try to be anything you're not ready for. I'm not going anywhere, Claire. Whether we're friends or something more, or just two people who went through something terrible together, I'm here. No pressure, no expectations. Just here." Tears spilled down Claire's cheeks. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Say exactly the right thing. Make me feel safe when I haven't felt safe in years." "I'm just being honest." "It's more than that." Claire wiped her eyes, laughing slightly. "You're infuriatingly kind. Do you know that? Infuriatingly, impossibly kind in a way that makes it really hard not to fall for you." The words hit Ethan like a physical thing. "Claire, I know. I just said I was terrified and not ready and all of that. But I also need you to know that if I were ready, if I were braver, you'd be the person I'd want to take that risk with, because you've shown me what real love looks like. Not control or possession or violence, but protection and sacrifice and showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." Before Ethan could respond, 3 children tumbled into the kitchen, pillow fight casualties with messed up hair and backward shirts. "Can we open one present tonight?" Marcus asked, deploying his most effective puppy dog eyes. "Please, just one?" The moment broke, but something remained. An understanding, an acknowledgement of feelings that couldn't be acted on yet, but were real nonetheless. They gathered around the tree, and each child opened one gift, and the apartment filled with excited shouts and rustling paper, and life continued forward the way it does whether hearts are ready or not. January brought new routines. Claire moved into her apartment, spending a week getting it ready before the twins could join her. Ethan helped with furniture assembly and box unpacking, Marcus supervising, while the twins explored their new home with cautious optimism. "It's smaller than the old house," Lily observed. "But it's ours," Sophie added quickly, "and no one's going to hurt us here." "That's right," Claire said firmly. "We're starting fresh. New home, new life, new everything." The twins moved back with their mother on a Friday, and Ethan tried to act like it wasn't tearing him apart. He helped carry their belongings, new clothes and toys and books accumulated over 8 weeks, into their new bedroom. He hung pictures on walls and made sure nightlights were plugged in and that everyone knew where the first aid kit was kept. "You're always welcome to visit," Claire said as Ethan was preparing to leave. The twins and Marcus distracted in the other room. "Any time. The girls would love that. I would love that," I'll be here tomorrow if you'll have us, Ethan promised. Marcus wants to see the girls' new room, and I want to make sure you're settled. That night, his apartment felt cavernously empty. Just him and Marcus rattling around in space that had felt perfectly sized 8 weeks ago, but now seemed too big, too quiet. Marcus felt it too, climbing into bed with his dad, even though he usually insisted he was too old for that. I miss them, Marcus said into the darkness. It's weird without them here. I know, buddy. I miss them too. But we'll still see them, right? They're not gone forever? Not gone at all. They're just at their own home now. But we're still family. Family doesn't stop being family just because you don't live together. Marcus considered this, then said, Good. Because I love them. Lily and Sophie and their mom. I love all of them. Me too, Ethan whispered. Me too. The next few weeks established a new normal. The twins came over every Wednesday after school for homework and dinner. Ethan took all 3 kids out on Saturdays, park trips, movies, the children's museum. Sunday dinners happened at Claire's apartment. Everyone crowded around her small table, and these meals felt sacred somehow, like they were building something intentional and precious. Claire was thriving in ways that were beautiful to witness. She'd found a job as an administrative assistant at a law firm, flexible hours, understanding bosses who knew her history. She started therapy, working through 8 years of trauma with a specialist in domestic violence survival. She laughed more easily, held herself differently, looked people in the eye instead of at the floor. I'm becoming myself again, she told Ethan one Sunday evening after the kids had fallen asleep watching a movie, sprawled across Claire's couch in a tangle of limbs and blankets. They were in the kitchen, keeping their voices low. Or maybe becoming who I was supposed to be before Daniel. I don't know. I just know I feel different. Lighter. You look lighter, Ethan said. Happier. I am happy, which is strange to say after everything, but it's true. My daughters are safe. My ex-husband is in prison. I have a job I actually like, a home that's mine, friends I can count on. She looked at him meaningfully. You especially. I can count on you especially. Always, Ethan said simply. That's what scares me, Claire admitted. How much I count on you. How much the girls count on you. What happens if... She stopped herself. If what? If you meet someone? If you fall in love with some woman who doesn't come with 2 kids and a truckload of baggage? If you decide this... She gestured between them, at the sleeping children in the next room, at the life they'd built around each other, is more than you signed up for. Ethan moved closer, close enough to see the fear and hope warring in her expression. I'm not going anywhere. How many times do I have to say it before you believe me? 1,000 more, probably. My trust was broken pretty thoroughly. Then I'll say it 1,000 more times. I'm not going anywhere, Claire. Not from you, not from your daughters. This, whatever this is, I want it, all of it. Even the baggage? The baggage made you who you are. And who you are is... Ethan paused, choosing words carefully. You're extraordinary. You survived something that would have destroyed most people. You protected your daughters, got them out, started over from nothing. You're the bravest person I know. Claire's eyes filled with tears. I don't feel brave. The bravest people never do. They stood there in her small kitchen, the world narrowed down to just the 2 of them, and Ethan wanted nothing more than to kiss her. To close the distance, to take the risk, to show her with actions what words couldn't fully express. But he didn't. Because she needed to be ready, needed to make that choice herself, needed to know she had all the power and control he'd promised her. So he just smiled, squeezed her hand, and said, I should get Marcus home. School tomorrow. Disappointment flickered across Claire's face, or maybe Ethan imagined it. Right, of course. Thank you for dinner. Thank you for having us. They stood there a moment longer, neither quite willing to break the spell. Then Marcus stirred in the living room, mumbling something about dragons, and the moment passed. February brought Daniel's plea hearing. Ethan wasn't required to attend, but Claire asked him to come anyway, to sit with her in the courtroom while her ex-husband stood before a judge and pleaded guilty to attempted murder, assault, violation of a protective order, and a litany of other charges. The twins stayed with Rachel, spared from seeing their father even for this. Ethan had never seen Daniel Madden in person before. only photos from police reports and newspaper articles. In his mind, he'd built up this monster, this evil force that had nearly destroyed the family Ethan had come to love. But in the courtroom, Daniel was just a man. Average height, thinning hair, a face that would be forgettable if not for the cold, flat eyes and the sneer that appeared when he looked at Claire. "He doesn't look like much," Claire whispered, echoing Ethan's thoughts. "That's what makes it so insidious. He looks normal, harmless. That's how he fooled me for so long." The proceedings were brief. Daniel's public defender spoke about acceptance of responsibility and desire for rehabilitation. The prosecutor laid out the evidence, overwhelming, damning, incontrovertible. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and no-nonsense demeanor, listened to both sides, then fixed Daniel with a look that could cut glass. "Mr. Madden, you nearly beat the mother of your children to death in front of those children. You violated a court order meant to protect her. You've shown no genuine remorse, only a desire to avoid a trial you know you'll lose. I'm accepting your plea agreement not because you deserve leniency, but because sparing the victims from testifying is the right thing to do. You're sentenced to 25 years in state prison with no possibility of parole. I hope you use that time to become a better man, though I'm not optimistic. You're dismissed." Just like that, it was over. Daniel was led away in handcuffs, and he didn't look back at Claire. Didn't acknowledge her at all. Like she was nothing, like she'd never mattered. Outside the courthouse, Claire stood on the steps breathing winter air, like she'd been underwater for years, and finally surfaced. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "It's over," she said wonderingly. "It's really, actually, finally over. He can't hurt us anymore. Not ever again." Ethan pulled her into a hug and she collapsed against him, shaking with sobs that were equal parts grief and relief. He held her while lawyers and reporters and other families streamed past, held her until she was ready to stand on her own again. "Thank you," she said, pulling back and wiping her eyes. "For being here. For everything. I told you, I'm not going anywhere." Claire looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Then she stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, soft and quick and over, before Ethan could fully process it. "I know," she said simply. "I'm starting to believe that." The kiss, brief as it was, changed something between them. The careful distance they'd maintained started to close. Dinners ran later, conversations grew deeper, casual touches became more frequent. The kids noticed, commenting with the brutal honesty of children. "Are you and Ethan dating?" Sophie asked her mother one evening while setting the table for dinner. Claire fumbled the plate she was holding. "What? No, we're friends." "Friends who look at each other all googly-eyed," Marcus contributed helpfully from the couch. "Googly-eyed isn't a thing," Lily said, but she was grinning. "It is too. My mom looked at her boyfriend like that before they broke up." "We're not dating," Claire repeated, but her face had gone pink, and when Ethan arrived 5 minutes later, the kids erupted into giggles that neither adult could get a straight explanation for. March arrived with early spring warmth, and the twins' first therapy session focused on the attack. Their therapist, Dr. Sarah Brennan, had been seeing them since January, building trust and working through trauma at a pace the girls could handle. But this session was different. This was confronting the worst night of their lives head-on. Claire was a wreck that day, pacing Ethan's apartment while they waited for the session to end. What if it's too much? What if I push them too fast? What if they're not ready? "They're ready," Ethan assured her. "They're strong. They've been doing the work. They shouldn't have to do this work. They're 8 years old. They should be worrying about homework and playground drama, not processing watching their mother almost die." "I know, but they are doing it, and they're going to be okay. You're all going to be okay." When the girls emerged from Dr. Brennan's office an hour later, they looked exhausted, but somehow lighter. Dr. Brennan spoke with Claire privately for a few minutes, then gave a thumbs up. "Good session. Hard, but good." That night, unprompted, Lily climbed into Ethan's lap while everyone was watching TV. "Thank you for saving our mom," she said quietly. "I don't think we ever really said thank you properly." "You don't need to thank me," Ethan said, his throat tight. "Yes, we do, because if you hadn't been there, if you'd gone home even 5 minutes earlier," Lily's voice broke. "She would have died. We would have been all alone. And now we're not alone because we have you and Marcus and Rachel and everyone. So thank you for saving her, for saving all of us. Sophie joined them, wrapping her arms around both Ethan and her sister. We love you, she said simply. You're not our dad, but you're something important, something we don't have a word for. Family, Marcus supplied from his spot on the floor. The word is family. He's family to you, you're family to him. We're all family together. Easy. From the mouth of babes, Ethan thought, blinking back tears. Yeah, he said, hugging the twins close. We're family. Claire, watching from the kitchen doorway, pressed a hand to her mouth, her eyes shining. When the girls finally released Ethan and went back to their movie, Claire caught his eye and mouthed, "Thank you. Not for the first time, not for the last. Just thank you. For being exactly who he was, exactly when they needed him." That Saturday, Ethan took Claire to dinner. Just the two of them. Rachel had all three kids for a sleepover, and Ethan had made reservations at a quiet Italian place downtown. He didn't call it a date, didn't want to pressure Claire, but it felt like one as they sat across from each other, candlelight flickering between them, real conversation flowing without children interrupting every 30 seconds. This is nice, Claire said, sipping wine and looking more relaxed than Ethan had ever seen her. Being just adults for a few hours. I love the girls desperately, but sometimes I forget I'm a person outside of being their mother. You're definitely a person, Ethan said, then felt stupid for stating the obvious. But Claire laughed. Thank you for the confirmation. Some days I wonder. She paused, tracing the rim of her wine glass. Ethan, can I ask you something? Anything. Why haven't you kissed me yet? The question caught him completely off guard. He'd spent 3 months carefully not kissing her, respecting her boundaries, giving her space and time. I didn't think you wanted me to. You said you weren't ready. I said I was terrified. That's different than not wanting. Claire leaned forward slightly. I am terrified. My hands are actually shaking right now under this table. But I'm ready. Or I want to be ready. Or I'm ready to try being ready. She laughed shakily. God, I'm making a mess of this. You're doing great, Ethan said gently. But Claire, I need you to be sure. Because once we cross this line, I can't uncross it. I'm already in deep with you and your daughters. If we do this and it doesn't work out, it'll work out, Claire interrupted. I can't promise I won't have bad days or setbacks or moments where my trauma brain takes over, but I can promise I'm all in. I have been for weeks. Maybe since that first hospital visit when I woke up and found out some stranger had saved my life and taken care of my babies. Maybe since the first time I saw you with the girls and realized you loved them as much as I do. I don't know when exactly. I just know I'm here and I'm sure, and I'm asking you to please kiss me before I lose my nerve. So Ethan did. He leaned across the table, careful of the candle, and kissed her softly, gently, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. She leaned in, her hand coming up to cup his face, and kissed him back with an intensity that spoke of months of pent-up feelings finally allowed release. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless and smiling and maybe crying a little. Okay, Claire said, laughing. Okay, that was okay. Just okay? Ethan teased. Amazing, terrifying, perfect, all of the above. She reached across the table and took his hand. I'm still scared, but I'm more scared of not doing this, of letting fear win again. Daniel took 8 years from me. I'm not giving him one more day. They finished dinner in a haze of new relationship euphoria, then walked through the city holding hands like teenagers, talking about everything and nothing. They ended up at Ethan's apartment even though the kids were gone, neither quite ready to say goodnight yet. On his couch, they kissed again. Longer this time, deeper, with the promise of more hanging between them. But they didn't rush. Claire had been rushed, pushed, controlled for too long. This time, everything would happen at her pace, on her terms, when she was ready. I should go, she said eventually, though she didn't move from where she was curled against him. Early shift tomorrow. Stay, Ethan said, then immediately backtracked. I just mean you don't have to rush off. We can just... I know what you mean, Claire said, smiling, and I appreciate it, but I should go home. Take this slow. Do it right. She kissed him once more, soft and sweet. But Ethan, I'm really glad you never made it to that restaurant on time. I'm glad I stood you up by almost dying, because it led me here. To you. To this. That's a terrible meet-cute story, Ethan said, making her laugh. The worst, she agreed. But it's ours. After she left, Ethan sat in his quiet apartment, his heart full in a way it hadn't been in years, maybe ever. He thought about blind dates and missed connections, about two little girls finding him in the darkness, about a woman fighting for her life, and a man who'd been in the right place at exactly the right moment. Fate, chance, divine intervention, whatever you wanted to call it. He called it love. Spring transformed the city in the way it always did, sudden and insistent, pushing green through concrete, coaxing flowers from frozen ground. Ethan stood at his apartment window on an April morning, coffee in hand, watching the world wake up. Behind him, the sounds of breakfast chaos filtered from the kitchen. 3 kids arguing about whose turn it was to pick the cereal. Claire laughing at something Marcus said, the normalcy of it all still catching Ethan off guard sometimes. They'd been officially together for 6 weeks now, though it felt simultaneously longer and shorter than that. Dating with children was complicated. Stolen kisses between homework help, meaningful conversations interrupted by requests for snacks, building a relationship in the margins of full lives. But it was also beautiful in ways Ethan hadn't anticipated. Every moment felt earned, chosen, intentional. Dad, are you coming? Sophie says I'm wrong about the dinosaur thing, but I'm not wrong. Marcus appeared in the doorway, indignant and covered in what looked like orange juice. What dinosaur thing? Ethan asked, following his son back to the kitchen where the twins were setting the table, and Claire was flipping pancakes with the easy competence of someone who'd cooked breakfast in this kitchen hundreds of times now. He says pterodactyls aren't actually dinosaurs, Sophie explained. I said they are. They're flying reptiles, not dinosaurs, Marcus insisted. It's science. He's technically right, Ethan confirmed, catching Claire's amused smile over the kids' groans of disappointment. You always take his side, Lily accused without real heat. Because I'm his dad. It's in the job description. Ethan ruffled her hair as he passed, dropping a kiss on Claire's temple that felt as natural as breathing now. Smells amazing. It's just pancakes, Claire said, but she was smiling that smile that meant she was happy, the one Ethan had learned to recognize and treasure. But thank you. They ate together, all 5 of them crowded around a table meant for 4, elbows bumping and conversations overlapping. This happened most mornings now. Claire and the girls slept at their own apartment, but breakfast had become communal, a way to start each day together before scattering to schools and work and the separate pieces of their lives. Are we still doing the zoo tomorrow? Lily asked through a mouthful of pancake. If everyone finishes their homework tonight, Claire said, that's the deal. We'll finish, Sophie promised. Even Marcus. Hey, I always finish my homework. Only because Dad makes you, Lily pointed out, which was accurate enough that Marcus couldn't really argue. After breakfast, Ethan drove everyone to school, dropping the 3 kids at the elementary school they now all attended together, watching them race toward the building in a tangle of backpacks and last-minute reminders. Claire rode with him, savoring these quiet moments before her shift at the law firm started. I got an email from my lawyer yesterday, Claire said as Ethan pulled back into traffic. The divorce is final, officially, legally, completely over. She'd filed the paperwork in February, and Daniel hadn't contested anything from prison. Still, the wheels of bureaucracy turned slowly. Now, finally, it was done. How do you feel? Ethan asked. Free, Claire said simply. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not married to him, not tied to him in any way except through the girls. She paused, searching for words. It's like I've been carrying this weight for so long I forgot it was there. And now it's gone and I can breathe properly. Ethan reached over and took her hand, threading their fingers together. You deserve to breathe properly. You deserve everything good. I have everything good, Claire said softly, looking at him with those blue eyes that still made his heart stumble sometimes. I have my daughter safe and healthy. I have a job I like, a home that's mine. I have you and Marcus and this whole beautiful, complicated family we've built. I don't need anything else. What if I want to give you more anyway? Claire smiled. Then I won't say no. That afternoon, Ethan left work early for an appointment he'd been planning for weeks. The jewelry store was downtown, a small family-owned place his sister had recommended. The owner, a kind-eyed woman named Rosa, greeted him like an old friend even though they'd only met once before. "Mr. Cole, welcome back. I have the ring ready if you'd like to see it." Ethan's heart hammered as Rosa brought out a velvet box, opening it to reveal the ring he'd designed. Simple, elegant, a single diamond on a white gold band. Nothing ostentatious, nothing that screamed "look at me." Just beautiful and classic and unmistakably an engagement ring. "It's perfect," Ethan said, and meant it. "Your fiancée is a lucky woman," Rosa said, boxing it up carefully. "I'm the lucky one," Ethan corrected, but he was smiling. He'd been planning this for weeks, ever since the night Claire told him about her finalized divorce. He knew some people would say it was too fast. They'd only been officially dating 6 weeks, had only known each other 6 months. But those 6 months had contained more life than most people experienced in years. They'd been through crisis and recovery, through the worst humanity could offer, and somehow found their way to something beautiful on the other side. Ethan didn't believe in wasting time once you found what you were looking for, and he'd found it. Her, them. This family, built from tragedy and kindness and love that had grown in the spaces between everything else. Now he just had to figure out how to ask. The zoo trip the next day was perfect. Sunny, but not too hot. The animals active and visible. The kids racing from exhibit to exhibit with boundless energy. Ethan and Claire trailed behind, holding hands, stealing moments of adult conversation between referee duties. "The penguins are Marcus's favorite," Ethan said, watching his son press his face against the glass. "Sophie loves the big cats," Claire added. "She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up, or a superhero. She hasn't decided which." "Why not both?" "That's what I told her." They watched their children, because that's how Ethan thought of them now, all 3 of them as theirs. And something about the moment felt significant, like this was what life was supposed to be. Not perfect, not without complications, but real, and full, and worth fighting for. "Claire," Ethan started, then stopped because suddenly the words he'd been rehearsing for weeks disappeared. "Yeah?" She looked up at him, curious and beautiful, and completely unaware of the ring burning a hole in his pocket. "I love you," he said instead. "I know I've said it before, but I need you to know I mean it, completely. Forever kind of love." Claire's expression softened. "I love you too. You know that, right?" "I do, but I like hearing it anyway." "Then I'll say it more often." She stood on her toes and kissed him, quick and sweet because the kids were right there and public displays had to be carefully managed. "Now come on, the kids want to see the elephants." That night, after returning exhausted children to their respective homes and making sure everyone was fed and homework was done, Ethan called Rachel. "I'm going to ask her to marry me," he said, without preamble. His sister squealed so loudly he had to hold the phone away from his ear. "Finally, when? How? Tell me everything." "I don't know yet. I want it to be special but not overwhelming. She's been through so much, I don't want to put pressure on her." "Ethan, that woman would marry you tomorrow if you asked. She's completely in love with you." "You think?" "I know. I've watched you 2 together. I've seen how she looks at you when she thinks no one's paying attention. Trust me on this. She's ready." Still, Ethan agonized over the details. He considered elaborate proposals, restaurants, surprise parties, romantic getaways, but none of them felt right. They felt performative, done for the story they'd tell later rather than for the moment itself. Finally, he realized what he wanted. Something simple, something honest, something that was just them. 2 weeks later, on an ordinary Tuesday evening in May, Ethan made spaghetti for dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and sauce from a jar and garlic bread that was slightly burnt but edible. The kids were at Rachel's for the night, giving the adults a rare evening alone. Claire arrived at 7, still in her work clothes, looking tired but happy. "This smells amazing," she said, kissing him hello in the doorway. "It's just spaghetti," Ethan said, echoing her words about pancakes from weeks ago. "But it's your spaghetti, which makes it special." They ate on the couch like they did sometimes when the kids weren't there to judge their lack of proper table manners, watching a movie neither was really paying attention to. Claire had her feet in Ethan's lap, and he was absently rubbing them, and everything felt peaceful and domestic and exactly right. "I have something I need to ask you," Ethan said during a commercial break, his heart suddenly racing. "Okay," Claire said, sitting up slightly. "That sounds serious." "It is, kind of, maybe." He was doing this badly, he realized. "Sorry, I'm nervous." "You're never nervous." "I'm nervous now." Ethan took a breath, set down the remote, and turned to face her fully. "Claire, 6 months ago, you stood me up for a blind date." She laughed, surprised. "Is this about that? I thought we were past—" "Let me finish," Ethan interrupted gently. "You stood me up because you were fighting for your life. And your daughters found me, and I helped them, and somehow we ended up here. In this completely unexpected, totally unplanned, absolutely perfect situation. And I keep thinking about that night, about how close I came to just going home, to missing them entirely, to never meeting you. And it terrifies me how easily this could have never happened." "But it did happen," Claire said softly. "We found each other." "We did. And now that I have you, now that I know what this feels like, being with you, loving you, being part of your family, and you being part of mine, I can't imagine my life any other way." Ethan reached into his pocket, pulled out the small velvet box, and watched Claire's eyes go wide. "I don't want to imagine my life any other way. So I'm asking, will you marry me? Will you let me keep showing up for you and the girls every single day for the rest of our lives?" Claire's hands flew to her mouth, tears already streaming down her face. Oh my God, Ethan." "Is that a yes?" he asked, terrified suddenly that he'd miscalculated, moved too fast, scared her. "Yes!" Claire laughed through her tears. "Yes, of course, yes. I can't believe I hoped, but I didn't think, yes. 1,000 times yes." Ethan opened the box with shaking hands, took out the ring, and slid it onto Claire's finger. It fit perfectly. She stared at it for a long moment, then launched herself at him, kissing him with an intensity that made his head spin and his heart soar. "I love you," she said between kisses. "I love you so much. I didn't know I could feel this way again. I didn't think I deserved to feel this way." "You deserve everything," Ethan told her fiercely. "Every good thing the universe has to offer, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know that." They stayed on the couch for a long time, holding each other, talking about the future in concrete terms now instead of vague maybes. Where they'd live. Probably a house. Something big enough for all of them. When they'd get married, soon, they both agreed, neither wanted a long engagement. How to tell the kids? Together, with love and excitement. "They're going to lose their minds," Claire said, laughing at the thought. "Marcus has been asking when I'm going to officially be his stepmom." "He asks you that?" "All the time. Usually when he wants something and thinks he can leverage our relationship." She smiled. "He's a clever kid." "He's your kid now too," Ethan said. "If you marry me, you're not just getting a husband. You're getting full-time mom duty to a very enthusiastic 8-year-old. "I can't wait," Claire said, and the sincerity in her voice made Ethan fall in love with her all over again. They told the children the next day, gathering all 3 of them in Ethan's living room with an announcement that something important needed to be discussed. The kids immediately looked worried. Years of bad news had trained them to expect the worst. "It's good news," Claire said quickly, taking Ethan's hand. "Really good news. Ethan asked me to marry him, and I said yes." For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then Marcus shouted, "Yes!" and pumped his fist like his team had just scored the winning goal. The twins looked at each other, that twin communication happening silently, then turned back to their mother with identical expressions of cautious hope. "You're getting married?" Lily asked. "For real?" "For real," Claire confirmed. "And we'll all live together?" Sophie added. "Like a real family?" "We're already a real family," Ethan said gently. "But yes, we'll live together. All of us under one roof." That broke the dam. Both twins started crying, happy tears this time, and rushed to hug their mother, then Ethan, then back to their mother. Marcus joined the pile, and suddenly everyone was crying and laughing and talking over each other. "Can we call you Dad?" Sophie asked Ethan, her voice muffled against his shirt. The question stopped him cold. He looked at Claire, who was crying harder now, and she nodded her permission and encouragement. "If you want to," Ethan said, his own voice thick with emotion. "I would be honored if you wanted to." "We want to," Lily said firmly. "You've been our dad for months anyway. We just didn't have permission to say it." "You have permission now," Claire said. "You have all the permission. He's going to be your stepfather officially, but honestly, he's been your father in every way that matters since the night he saved my life." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking about logistics, where they'd live, how they'd combine households, whether they needed a bigger car. Marcus lobbied heavily for a dog, claiming that every proper family needed one. The twins supported this initiative enthusiastically. Claire and Ethan exchanged looks that said, "We'll discuss this later," and the kids recognized a tactical retreat when they saw one. That evening, after the twins had gone home with Claire and Marcus was in bed, Ethan sat alone in his living room and let the reality wash over him. He was getting married. He was becoming a father to 3 children. His life was about to change in fundamental, irreversible ways. He couldn't wait. The next few months were a whirlwind. They found a house, a 4-bedroom in a good school district with a yard big enough for running and playing and possibly that dog the kids kept lobbying for. The mortgage approval process was complicated by Ethan's recent divorce and Claire's limited credit history, but they made it work. Everything legal was finalized by mid-June, and they set a move-in date for July 1st. The wedding planning was simpler than either expected. They didn't want a big ceremony, didn't need months of preparation and guest lists that spanned hundreds. What they wanted was something intimate, something that celebrated not just their marriage, but the family they'd become. So they decided on a backyard wedding at Rachel's house in August, just immediate family and close friends. Marcus would be best man because he took the title very seriously and had already written a speech. The twins would be junior bridesmaids wearing matching purple dresses they'd picked out themselves. Simple, meaningful, perfect. Daniel tried to interfere once, sending letters from prison, first to Claire, then to the girls when Claire didn't respond. Threats, manipulations, declarations that he'd never allow another man to replace him as father to his daughters. The letters went straight to Claire's lawyer and then to the prosecutor handling Daniel's parole conditions. He was told in no uncertain terms that any further contact would result in additional charges. The letters stopped. "He can't touch us anymore," Claire said after the lawyer called with the update. "He's just noise now, impotent rage from someone who lost everything he tried to control." "How do you feel about that?" Ethan asked. They were packing boxes in Claire's apartment, preparing for the move to the new house. The twins were at school, and they had rare hours of uninterrupted time. Relieved, sad for the girls that their biological father is so broken. But mostly just done. "I spent years being afraid of him, years trying to manage his moods and avoid his anger, and now I just feel nothing. He's irrelevant. You're their father in every way that counts." "I want to make that official," Ethan said. "After the wedding, I want to adopt them. If you and they are okay with that." Claire set down the box she was holding, tears springing to her eyes for the 100th time in recent weeks. "Are you serious?" "Completely. I love them like they're mine. They call me Dad. I want to make it legal, give them my name if they want it, make sure there's never any question about my rights and responsibilities as their parent." "Ethan Cole, I swear you're trying to make me cry every single day." "Is that a yes?" "That's the biggest yes I've ever given." She crossed to him, wrapped her arms around his neck. "You're extraordinary. Do you know that? Completely, impossibly extraordinary." "I'm just a guy who got stood up for a blind date," Ethan said, making her laugh through her tears. "Best blind date that never happened," Claire agreed, kissing him soundly. They told the twins that evening. Both girls immediately burst into excited tears and demanded to know if they could change their last name to Cole right away. Claire explained that there were legal processes, court dates, paperwork, but yes, soon they could be Lily and Sophie Cole if that's what they wanted. "It's what we want," Lily said firmly. "More than anything," Sophie added. July 1st arrived with moving trucks and controlled chaos. Between Ethan's apartment, Claire's apartment, and all the new furniture they'd bought for the house, there was almost too much stuff for too little space. But they made it work, the way they'd made everything work, together, with patience and humor, and 3 kids running underfoot asking where things should go. By evening, The house looked lived in already. Boxes still littered every room, and they had no idea where half their possessions were. But beds were assembled and sheets were on them, and everyone had a pillow and a place to sleep. "This is ours," Claire said, standing in the living room with Ethan, looking at the beautiful chaos around them. "Our home, our family, our life." "Our life," Ethan echoed, pulling her close. "I like the sound of that." The kids christened the backyard immediately, running through the grass and exploring every corner while Ethan and Claire watched from the porch. Marcus showed the twins the perfect spot for a treehouse, and they were already planning elaborate designs involving slides and secret passages. "We should probably get that dog," Claire said. "They're never going to stop asking." "Probably not," Ethan agreed, "but we have a yard now, and I've always wanted a dog." "Then we'll get a dog. After the wedding, one massive life change at a time." August arrived with heat and humidity and mounting excitement as the wedding date approached. They kept the ceremony small and the expectations reasonable. Claire wore a simple white dress she'd found at a boutique downtown. Ethan wore a suit Marcus insisted made him look like James Bond. The twins wore their purple dresses and flower crowns and could not have been more proud of their role in the proceedings. The backyard at Rachel's house had been transformed with white chairs and flower garlands and twinkling lights strung through the trees. Maybe 40 people total, family, close friends, colleagues from work who'd become more than just coworkers. Small, but it felt full. It felt right. Ethan stood at the makeshift altar with Marcus beside him, watching Claire walk down the aisle with her daughters on either side of her. She'd insisted on having the twins walk with her rather than someone giving her away. She wasn't property to be transferred, she said, and her daughters had been there through everything, had survived alongside her, deserved to be part of this moment. When they reached Ethan, the twins hugged their mother, then hugged him, then went to stand beside Marcus. And then it was just Ethan and Claire, holding hands, looking at each other while a friend who'd gotten ordained online for this specific purpose talked about love and commitment and the beautiful, unexpected ways life brings people together. "Ethan," Claire said when it was time for vows, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "6 months ago you saved my life, but it's taken me until now to realize you didn't just save me that one night. You've been saving me every day since, with your kindness, your patience, your unwavering belief that I deserved good things. You took my broken family and made us whole. You loved my daughters when they desperately needed a father. You gave us all a safe place to heal and grow and become who we were meant to be. I promise to spend the rest of my life loving you as fiercely as you've loved us. I promise to be your partner, your friend, your home. I promise to keep showing up, keep choosing you, keep building this beautiful life we've created together. I love you. I choose you. Today and always." Ethan had to pause to collect himself before he could speak, and even then his voice shook. "Claire, I went to a restaurant for a blind date, and you didn't show up. Best thing that ever happened to me. Because instead of a pleasant dinner with a stranger, I got to meet the love of my life under the worst possible circumstances, and somehow, we found our way here. You talk about me saving you, but Claire, you saved me too. You showed me what real courage looks like. You taught me that family isn't just biology, it's choice and commitment and showing up even when things are hard. You and your daughters, our daughters, gave me purpose I didn't know I was missing. I promise to protect you, all of you, for as long as I live. I promise to be the father Lily and Sophie deserve, the husband you deserve, the man our family needs. I promise to never take for granted the gift of getting to love you. I love you. I choose you, today and always." There wasn't a dry eye in the backyard when the officiant pronounced them married and Ethan kissed his wife, while their children cheered and everyone applauded. Marcus and the twins crashed into their parents, creating a group hug that the photographer captured perfectly, and that image would hang on their living room wall for the rest of their lives. The reception was simple: barbecue and music and dancing on the lawn. The kids ran wild with their cousins, high on cake and joy. The adults mingled and congratulated and told Ethan and Claire repeatedly how perfect they were together, how clear it was that this was meant to be. "Speech, speech!" someone called out as the evening wore on, and Marcus grabbed the microphone with the confidence of a child who'd been preparing for this moment for months. Hi, I'm Marcus, and Ethan is my dad, and now Claire is my stepmom, which is awesome, he began, and the crowd chuckled. I want to tell you about how they met. My dad was supposed to have a date with Claire, but she didn't show up because someone was hurting her really bad. And her daughters Lily and Sophie, they're my sisters now. They found my dad and asked him to help. And he did help because that's what my dad does. He helps people even when it's hard or scary or complicated. He helped Claire and the twins, and then they helped him too, because before them he was kind of sad sometimes from the divorce. But now he's happy all the time because we're a family, and that's my speech. Thank you. The applause was thunderous. Ethan was crying again, and Claire was laughing and crying at the same time. And the twins were hugging Marcus and telling him his speech was perfect. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, the new Cole family, because they were all Coles now, officially or soon to be officially, sat together on the porch, watching fireflies emerge in the gathering darkness. 3 children drowsy from excitement, 2 adults exhausted and content. Did we do good, Mommy? Lily asked, yawning. We did perfect, baby, Claire said, kissing the top of her daughter's head. Best wedding ever, Sophie mumbled, already half asleep against Ethan's side. Marcus, fighting sleep but determined to stay awake for every last moment, looked up at his parents, because that's what they were now, both of them, his parents, and smiled. We're really a family now, like, officially. We were already a family, Ethan said, but yes, now it's official. Good, Marcus said simply, and that was that. Later, after the kids were asleep in Rachel's guest rooms and the newlyweds had a quiet moment alone, Claire and Ethan stood in the backyard looking at the stars. I can't believe we're married, Claire said, studying the ring on her finger, the wedding band that now accompanied the engagement ring. Sometimes I think I'm going to wake up and discover this was all a dream, that I'm still in that house, still trapped, still afraid. It's not a dream, Ethan assured her. It's real. We're real. This family we built, it's the most real thing I've ever been part of. I know, but I also know how close we came to this never happening. If you'd left that restaurant 5 minutes earlier, if the girls had run a different direction, if any of 1,000 tiny things had been different, but they weren't, Ethan interrupted gently. All those tiny things lined up exactly right, and I refuse to believe that was just coincidence. I think we were supposed to find each other, maybe not in the way we did, maybe not through such terrible circumstances, but somehow, some way, we were meant to be here together. Claire turned to him, taking both his hands. Do you really believe that? In fate or destiny or whatever you want to call it? I believe in us, Ethan said. I believe in the family we've created, the love we've built, the future we're going to have. Whether that's fate or chance or just luck. Does it matter? We're here. That's what counts. You're right, Claire said, smiling. We're here. And I'm never taking that for granted. They kissed in the starlight, in the quiet aftermath of their wedding day, and everything felt exactly as it should be. The months that followed were an adjustment, 5 people learning to share space and make decisions and navigate the daily challenges of blended family life. It wasn't always smooth. There were arguments about chores and disagreements about rules and moments when the kids tested boundaries or the adults made mistakes. But there was also laughter and love and a sense of belonging that made even the hard days worth it. They adopted a golden retriever puppy the kids named Hero, and he became the 6th member of their family, growing from a tiny ball of fluff into a gangly adolescent who slept across all 3 kids' beds simultaneously somehow. The adoption proceedings for the twins went through in October. Ethan and Claire stood in family court with Lily and Sophie, officially making legal what had been true in their hearts for almost a year. The judge, the same woman who'd sentenced Daniel, smiled at them from the bench. It's nice to see happy endings, she said. Or happy beginnings, I suppose. Mr. and Mrs. Cole, you have 2 wonderful daughters. Girls, you have parents who love you fiercely. Take care of each other. We will, all 4 of them promised. Thanksgiving that year was at their house, their home, with Rachel and her family, with a few friends who'd become like family, with an absurd amount of food and even more gratitude. As they went around the table saying what they were thankful for, each person's answer was some variation of family, love, second chances. When it was Ethan's turn, he looked at his wife, at his 3 children, at the life they'd built from the wreckage of that terrible November night almost exactly a year ago. "I'm thankful for blind dates that never happened," he said, making everyone laugh, "and for being in the right place at the right time. But mostly, I'm thankful for this. For all of you, for this family, for getting to love you all every single day." "That's beautiful, Dad," Sophie said, and hearing her call him Dad still made his heart skip. "I learned from the best," Ethan said, squeezing Claire's hand under the table. Christmas was chaos and magic, presents overflowing under a tree even bigger than last year's, cookies baked and decorated with more frosting than actual cookie visible. Carols sung off-key but with enthusiasm. The kids were older now, a little wiser, a little less innocent than they'd been the year before, but they were also happier, more secure, more certain of their place in the world. On Christmas Eve, after the children had finally gone to bed and Ethan and Claire were sitting by the tree with wine and exhaustion, Claire pulled out a small wrapped box. "I got you something. I know we said no gifts between us this year, but this felt important." Ethan unwrapped it to find a photo album, handmade, filled with pictures from the past year. The first photo was from that initial hospital visit, Claire unconscious, the twins holding her hands, Ethan standing in the doorway looking overwhelmed. Someone had taken it, and Claire had somehow tracked it down. The photos that followed told their story. Hospital visits giving way to apartment life. The twins' birthday party. Christmas morning with 3 kids in matching pajamas. Moving day chaos. The wedding ceremony with all 5 of them tangled in a hug. First day of school in their new house. The adoption ceremony. Thanksgiving dinner just last month. "Our story," Claire said softly. "From the worst night of my life to the best year. All because you didn't give up on us." Ethan couldn't speak through the lump in his throat. He just pulled his wife close and held her while the Christmas tree lights twinkled and their children slept safely upstairs, and everything that had been broken was made whole. On New Year's Eve, they let the kids stay up to watch the ball drop. 5 minutes before midnight, as they counted down together, Ethan looked around at his family, his wife curled against his side. Marcus sprawled across the floor with the dog, the twins sharing the recliner and fighting sleep, and felt a contentment so profound it was almost overwhelming. 10 seconds, the TV announced, and everyone started counting together. 10, 9, 8. 1 year ago, Ethan had been alone in a restaurant, waiting for a woman who would never arrive, disappointed, lonely, wondering if he'd ever find what he was looking for. 7, 6, 5. 1 year ago, Claire had been fighting for her life while her daughters ran through dark streets searching for help. 4, 3, 2. Now they were here, together, safe, happy. A family built from crisis and kindness, from tragedy transformed into love. 1. Happy New Year! Everyone cheered and hugged and made noise with the party horns Marcus had insisted on buying. Claire kissed Ethan long and sweet while the kids made exaggerated gagging noises, and when they pulled apart, both were smiling. "Happy New Year," Claire whispered. "Our second year as a family." "First of many," Ethan promised. "First of forever." Later, long after the kids had crashed hard and been carried to their beds, after the house had gone quiet and still, Ethan found himself back at the window where he'd stood so many mornings, looking out at the city. Claire joined him, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About how different everything is from a year ago. How much has changed." "Good different or bad different?" "The best different," Ethan said, turning to face her. "I keep thinking about that night, about how you never showed up to our date because you were fighting for your life. And I think about how horrible that was, how traumatic and terrible. But I also think about how it led us here, and I can't regret it, even though I should. Because if it hadn't happened exactly the way it did, we might never have found each other," Claire finished. "I know. I think about that too. I hate what happened to me, what happened to the girls. I hate that they had to see that violence, had to live in that fear, but I'm grateful. Is that terrible? To be grateful for trauma because of where it led? It's human," Ethan said gently. "It's taking something horrible and finding meaning in it. That's not terrible. That's survival. That's grace. You always know exactly what to say. I've had good teachers." He kissed her forehead. "Come on. Let's go to bed. Tomorrow's a new year, a new chapter. We should be rested for it. They climbed the stairs together, checking on each child as they passed. Marcus snoring softly with Hero sprawled across his legs, the twins curled together the way they still preferred, all three peaceful and safe. In their own room, Ethan and Claire fell into bed exhausted and content. "I love you," Claire whispered in the darkness. "Thank you for never showing up to that restaurant on time. Thank you for being exactly where I needed you to be." "I love you too," Ethan replied. "Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for fighting, for surviving, for letting me be part of your story." "Our story," Claire corrected sleepily. "It's our story now." "Our story," Ethan agreed. And it was. A story that started with violence and fear but transformed into love and family and hope. A story about second chances and unexpected blessings and the way life can change in an instant. Sometimes for the worse, but sometimes, miraculously, for the better. A story about a blind date that never happened and the family that was born from that missed connection. About two little girls who found help in the darkness and the man who answered their call. About a woman who survived and a man who saved her and three children who brought them all together. It wasn't the story any of them would have chosen. The path had been too dark, too painful, too marked by trauma and fear. But it was their story, and they'd made something beautiful from it. And as Ethan drifted off to sleep with his wife in his arms and his children safe down the hall and a whole future stretching ahead of them, he thought about fate and chance and divine intervention one last time. Maybe it was all of those things. Maybe it was none of them. Maybe it was just love, persistent, transformative, redemptive love that had taken 5 broken people and made them whole. Whatever it was, Ethan was grateful. Grateful for missed connections that led to found families. Grateful for second chances and new beginnings. Grateful for the blind date that never happened but somehow gave him everything he'd ever wanted and more than he'd dared to dream. Their story didn't have a tidy ending because real life doesn't work that way. There would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to navigate, more moments of doubt and difficulty. But they'd face them together, as a family, as partners, as people who'd already survived the worst and come out stronger. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.